All right. We're firing everything up. Just doing a quick check, making sure everything's working the way it should. We are about 3 minutes early, so we're going to give everybody a chance to kind of hop in here. But hey, welcome everybody, wherever you are watching on the like 4 different platforms we're streaming this on at once. But this is cool. All right. Some of y'all just got caught up here. We have a little bit of a delay just because we're going through restream to everybody. So if I'm slower responding to your stuff, that's what's going on here. But the idea today, and this is something we do a couple of times during each set season, is just a big deck doctor thing. We're basically, when I say so, we're not doing it yet, but I will make a call out. We'll end up taking decks from you, the viewers, and then we'll just go over them, right? We'll say what's good, what's bad, what we might change, what you're struggling with, we'll try to help with. And that's the biggest thing. Some basic rules, though. If you are submitting a deck, don't submit something that's just another popular deck, right? Like, if it's already a deck that already exists, like if you're like, hey, this is my lizard deck, what should I do? And it's just like, we already have lizard deck, everybody else has lizard deck, you can look at the one on my channel. Like, I wouldn't be adding anything original. I'd really just say, hey, here's another list that already works, just copy that one, right? But this is like, maybe you've seen a card in the set and you're trying to build around it and the deck is struggling, right? Or maybe from previous sets, there's some combos of some different things you're trying to make work and it's just not really hitting the way you want. Those are the decks we want to take a look at. Like if you come on with like, look at my mono black discard deck, I'm just going to look and say, all right, it's a mono black discard deck. You know, and that's going to be it. Like, what do you want me to say about it? You're playing the same popular cards. And not saying the popular cards can't be in any of these brews, but this is to help those people out, right? Like, because if we're all playing just popular things, there's a bunch of resources where you can go get that. That's not really a problem, right? The idea here is for people who are struggling with whatever the beginning levels of some new idea are, this is for you, right? So, matter of fact, I need to get my notebook ready. Which, by the way, reusable notebooks like are amazing. I keep one next to me all the time for keeping notes and doing all kinds of other stuff. But the fact that they're like erasable and you can just keep using the same notebook forever is awesome. It saves so much paper for a person like me who keeps notes on everything, which is kind of wild, but it works. Got to make sure we're hitting on all different things. Looks like we are. We're up on Twitch. Okay, cool. Everybody's good. All right. So like I said, we're going to give it a few minutes for folks to kind of slowly make their way in here. But we do have a comment from Wachivo who says, have you made an Is It Otters list? Really wanted to be able to make a real RAL feel powerful, but I have some I'm working on. I don't have a list yet that I've put up, but probably in the next few days, I'll get around to putting it up. Brandon Russell says, how long will this last? I'm driving back from home. I can't tell you how long. It's sometimes based on participation, sometimes based on how tired I get. You just never know. Like, could be, I mean, you're not going to go less than an hour, but beyond that, it could be hour and a half, could be 2 hours. Just sort of depends on how we're feeling. Go Calper from Twitter says, good afternoon. Well, good afternoon to you too, friend. This is like late after. This is almost evening for me. This is 5 o'clock Pacific time, so we're right at the edge. Yef says, how easy to get back into MTGA with nothing from standard? You know, that's always a question, and it really depends kind of on what you plan to do, I guess. If your goal is just like you want to build a deck, you want to have something to play in the play queue, knock out your dailies, collect your free gold and stuff, then like there's a bunch of budget decks you could build. If you want to play mono white, mono red aggro, there's a couple of different versions of like the budget version of the red deck, the burn deck I put up today. Like that's a thing. Like the Haughty Jin deck I think has a bunch of commons and uncommons in it, just a handful of rares and mythics. So like there's some stuff you can build and just play, right? If you want to be super competitive and try to play tournaments and you know, the standard challenges and all that, you're probably going to need to spend some money if you haven't been playing Arena at all. You know, I'm not a ton of money, but maybe you invest 40, 50 bucks, get some extra wild cards and some booster packs, and then, you know, do what you want to do. I think the biggest thing is just figuring out what type of deck you want to play more than anything else. Like, that's usually the first step. To me personally, I don't mind spending money on whatever the hobby is, whether it's Magic, whether it's board games, whether it's disc golf, whatever it is I'm doing, if I'm going to use the things for a long time that I'm buying, right? And right now in Standard, especially with the new cards, like, they're going to be Standard legal for 3 years. So if you want to just spend some money on stuff right now, like, you're going to be able to use it for a long time. So it really just depends on what you plan to do. What's the equipment deck I see here? I have a video from 2 days ago, actually from yesterday. You should go check that out. All right. So now that people are starting to stroll in here, just kind of want to revise the rule or go over the rules just one more time. Captain Teamwork says, bro, I just got to take a shower. I hope you're still around in a bit. Well, unless you take long showers like me, I'll probably still be here. Dude, I'm going to be real with y'all. I already take long showers, and we got a tankless water heater when we had to replace our water heater. Bro, like, that's, for my productivity, like, I literally have to take my phone in the shower and, like, answer emails and stuff in the shower, because I can just stand there and, like, my Fortress of Solitude up against the wall, like, thinking about nothing while I'm in there. Like, for real. I got to get business taken care of when I can. The Amazing Vector says, glad I could catch a stream. You do a deck tech today. I have a deck on my YouTube channel every day. It's up right now. All right. So for those of you that are new and not been to a Deck Doctor stream, this is what we do. When I say go, there will be a chance to go into the Discord. Their link is in the video. If you're from another thing that's not on YouTube, I will post it here in a second, so you can have a link to the Discord. And you can go into the standard section, and then in the order you were in there, I will take deck lists and look at them. However, if you make a bits donation on Twitch or you leave a super chat on YouTube, you can skip the line. I do this for 2 reasons. One, obviously, it allows it to make it worth it for me. I make a little bit for doing the thing I do. But also, especially after we get like 10 people in the queue, you're probably not going to get looked at after that. So if somebody wants to skip the line, I'll have a separate line with people who've made bits donations or whatever, and then you'll be next up. So those will always go first, and then once the paid queue is empty, we go to the free queue. I want to have 2 options for people because some people just don't have it. So if you get here in time, you can get into the free queue, and you can participate that way. So I leave a little bit of options for everybody, basically. It's what I try to do. But I will queue up that link. I will post it here in a second for everybody to have it. Can I suggest a standard Pauper deck tech? That's not... Okay. The question... Are you asking... Those are 2 different things. Like, or do you want a standard deck? Or are you asking if there is a deck tech where somebody plays and breaks down a deck that I could recommend you to? Those are 2 different things. How's that rat deck? I don't know. I haven't played it yet. I have a lot of decks in my system that I haven't played yet. They're just ideas I'm working on. Y'all will see them when they're all good and they're there. Hey, Villain, how's it going? So, yeah. Now, budget decks, like, if you want to build a budget, like, here's the thing, and this is why I try to tell people to be honest. Like, there's only ever going to be a couple of budget builds that I would say are going to be truly competitive, right? And I'm not saying your decks have to be crazy expensive, but, like, even when I've done budget videos, like, I try to set a limit at, like, 10 to 12 rares and mythics. And some people still complain that, like, oh, that's not really budget. But, like, you have some number of rares and mythics, right? You may not have to get them all. So if you only have to spend, like, 6 to 8, that's still reasonably budget, right? Or if it's older cards, you probably already own them, you know, like that sort of thing. So budget always has a different number or a different understanding for what people want that to be. For me, it's just like if it's 10 or less, maybe even 12 rares of mythics, like that's still fairly budget, especially if you're not using all new cards that people don't have to craft. But realistically, like in standard, you kind of already know. It's like the mono red stuff, maybe even some of the Gruul aggro, playing some other cheap things. Boros tokens, probably the mono blue Haughty Jin decks. Those are probably going to be the only ones, right? Like, if I was going to recommend stuff that's truly budget and competitive, and I guess the new burn deck, like there's some budget versions of that. I think Saffron Olive over at what you call it? I don't know why I'm forgetting their channel name. Goldfish, right? They probably have. I think he played one like 3 or 4 days ago. So like those would probably be it. Oh, you're talking about a Pauper standard tournament? I'm gonna be real with you. That doesn't even sound like fun to me. Like a Pauper standard tournament's probably gonna be a lot of the same decks. Because you can only play commons in Pauper, right? Like 1 or 2 people are just gonna break the format and everybody's gonna play the same thing, I would imagine. Like, I mean, I guess here's the thing. I think strategically for the store, it's probably a way to get people to play standard who haven't bought any standard cards, right? You can just go buy a pile of commons and build your deck and maybe be out, hell, I don't know, 10, 15 bucks, right? That's pretty cool. So, I mean, in that regard, I think it's a nice effort. But for the people that are trying to really be competitive, somebody's probably going to figure it out. And then it's just not going to be fun, you know? But yeah, if that's the case, I don't even know what I would like. Yeah, probably the same list of stuff. Just some mono blue things with some big creature finishers or something that cares about instants and sorcerers in the graveyard. Boros tokens, because the bulk of that deck is commons and uncommons. You can't play uncommons, but it is a bunch of commons in that deck, and you can probably make it work still. The red decks have a bunch of commons and uncommons, so like there's probably a version of those you could build. Is the new Stoat like I think he's uncommon. I don't even think he's rare. I mean, yeah, he's uncommon, so you couldn't even play it. I was gonna say if the Stoat was uncommon, I'd just play like mono white aggro. But yeah, other than that, nobody's really building just standard Pauper. So there's not really a meta game for it. Like people play Pauper just with like larger formats of cards, but I don't know anybody that's just playing just standard Pauper. Will we need to drop a link to the deck, or can we just drop a screenshot? Nope, you will have to put links. I don't take screenshots because it takes entirely too long to put into Arena, and I recommend using the popular sites because they format better and it's easier to put in there. So, and if you paste your deck list, then inevitably if you have one thing wrong or it's like it doesn't read the quantity right, like there's always a problem. I always tell people, post a link, don't post your deck list, because you reduce the chances that there will be problems. But let's see how many people didn't follow instructions. Okay, so far we didn't have anybody jump the gun. Awesome, because I hate having to boot people to the back of the line. All right, so last time, so we can go over the rules and we'll get this started. When I say go, we will create 2 queues. There is the free queue that will be in our Discord. You have to go to the standard section and you will put your name. Well, your name's going to pop up when you put there, but you will post your link to your deck list. That is the order I will go in to create the free queue. If you leave a bits donation on Twitch or you leave a super chat on YouTube, that will allow you to skip the line. The paid line will always go first. Once the paid line is clear, we start back at the free queue and we just take care of everybody we can. No guarantee that you will get in. It just sometimes we get through 6 people because some of the decks take longer to talk about. Sometimes we get through 12 people, right? I can't tell you how long it's going to be. I can't promise anything when in the queue. I had somebody get mad because they're like, well, why did I get in the queue if you didn't even get to me? I'm like, man, there was like 20 people. What do you want me to do? Like, I mean, like, I can only do so much. Like, that's why I give the other paid option. So if you show up late, you can skip the line and go to the front. Just the way it is. Hayden says, it's more an event organizer, has no real play no one really plays Standard. Oh, in Australia, and more play Pauper. So to get more players playing Standard, okay, that makes sense. That's what I thought. Like, it's a way to just get people to pick up the format who haven't played it, get them familiar with the cards. So that makes sense. I don't think it's anything wrong with doing it. I mean, strategically, from no, I'm not showing any of the decks that are on my screen because, well, let me finish this first comment. But yeah, I think it's strategically for the LGS the right decision because you're just trying to get people into Standard. I just can't help you much because it's not like there's really a defined format. The people who put time into it will probably break it, but, you know, it's not a thing right now. Lion says, can I see one of the decks that's on the chat thing? I actually am saying no because here's what I've had happen before. A lot of these decks that have not been shown in video yet are test versions of decks. Some of them I've played once or twice. A bunch of them I've played 0 times. What inevitably happens, I have somebody who goes and copies it, and then I have to deal with negative emails from people complaining about, oh, this deck sucks. I don't know why you showed this on stream, blah, 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 even though it wasn't even a deck ready to go. Like, at no point did I give any commentary on the deck. Like, they asked to see it. They go spin their wild cards, and they're not happy about it. Or, at one time, I had somebody mad that thought I bait and switched them because I showed one on a stream, and then the one I actually ended up playing in a video a couple days later looked nothing like that deck because I swapped like 10 or 12 cards, right? So it's like, can't win either way. So I generally just avoid doing that because it's just better. Hey, Watchtower, what's going on? All right, so here we go. If you want to hop in, there's the Discord link. It should show up everywhere. I will double check to make sure it shows up everywhere to verify. That is not showing up. My comment is. Here, I will copy this link, though, and I will post the link because that makes more sense. There we go. So now you can go hop into the Discord. You can go into the Standard section, put a link to your deck. Don't post your deck. Put a link to your deck. You can host it on Moxfield. It's their channel sponsor, but you can put it on MTG Goldfish. You can put it on a ton of places, right? Wherever you want to put it. Just somewhere that's easy for us to get the deck list. That will start the free queue. And again, if you make a donation on Twitch or on YouTube, you will get to skip the line and you will go to the front of the line. So if you show up late, it's a way you can skip the line. Also, if you are not present, when we get to your deck, we give you about a minute. If you don't respond, then we go on to the next person. I will hold your place in line for one additional person, and if you're still not back, then we just take your name off the queue. Because we got other people we got to get to. All right. So our free queue looks like it's already starting to fill up. So we got Wachivo. I'm making a list here so I can keep everybody right at hand. Is that Pages? Is what the name is there? All right. I'm going to go with that because that's what's showing up. It has a bunch of symbols. I don't know what that all means. And Melon Guardian. Y'all are the first ones in the queue. All right. This should go well. What's a good top end for rabbits? They don't need a big top end. They have a 4/4. That's as big as they need to go, really. What's so surprising about Gruel Surprise? Well, you'll have to watch a video in a couple of days. All right. So let me go get Wachivo's deck. And right now the queue is at 3, so odds of getting in are pretty good right now. All right, let's export. And also, if you just post a deck list to, like we were saying earlier, if you just post like mono black discard, like I'm literally going to look at it and go, okay, this is what this deck is. We already know, and I'm moving to the next person. We're looking for stuff that people are struggling with so we can ask questions, try to help you out with specific scenarios, not just, hey, look at my good deck. Like, we all know it's good. Like, who cares? Like, I know it sounds rude, but like we're not achieving anything by putting that on here. Where did it go? I just loaded it. Or at least I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. Let's try that again. At least I thought I just had it. Export to MTG Arena. There we go. Now we upload. Oh, current standard raccoon. Okay, yeah, we already have a standard raccoons list. Like, that was like the first video I put up this season. That's why I didn't recognize it. I already have one. This is... Yeah, I'm just going to recommend you to the list I already have. This is trying to do too much. Like, just looking at this, I can tell. We're trying... Like, it doesn't need Valley Might Caller. You don't need Smuggler Surprise. The Hawks are good. Hugs is good. You don't need Lumber. Lumber doesn't do anything in this list, honestly. It's just a 6 mana, like, 5/5 or 6/6 duder. It doesn't really do, because it's not like you're putting lands into play or anything. Like, you shouldn't have a bunch of lands in your graveyard except for 1 or 2 you flip from Smuggler Surprise, maybe. Yeah, I'm just gonna recommend it here. I'm just gonna get the link to my video. Yeah, I actually thought this was really good. Yeah, you don't... I mean, Scrap Shooter, you should have a full set of those. Like, yeah, I would do it all differently. All differently. Here we go. I would do this. There you go. There's a link to that. That one's easy. We already did the deck. That's already a good version. I would just go play that. Like, I had really good luck with that one already. Not really much else to talk about there. I thought that one was super cool, super fun. And it kind of did everything we wanted to do with it. All right. So we're going to go to Page's list. Vector is also added to the free queue. So Vector, you are currently in the 3 seats. Page, you are up. Melon Guardian, you are on deck. Oh gosh, Paige, you're gonna have to re-put your deck list because you must have put it where it's like password coded or something because I can't get to it. So I'm gonna skip Paige for now. I'm going to Melon Guardian. I click on your link and it takes me to a thing I can't download from. All right. Man, I'm still amazed how many of y'all use Archidec. Like, I don't get me wrong, I don't hate Archidec. I like the people over at EDH Rec and all that stuff, but it is so many moving parts and so technical looking and whatever to just like host a deck list. It's pretty cool. I mean, I'm just kind of surprised sometimes. Let's see. Export. I guess it just export as text should work. All right. Let's delete this one so I can save some space. And then let's load up this one. Nope. Invalid line, battle for... All right, let's see if it'll load for MTG Arena. Copy it. Did it format better that time? All right, well, I'm not able to get your deck list from over on Archidect. One of you has it where I can't even download it at all. The other, I'm trying to export the list, and it's just even text format or for Arena, neither is working. Yeah, neither of these options works. So you're probably gonna have to host it somewhere else. I don't know what the issue is, but it's not taking either one of them. So I still have Pages and Melon. If y'all get me another list, you will be next up. I am gonna go to Vector. Y'all are still in the queue. You're not being penalized for that. I just need you to post it somewhere else. All right, let's go to Vector. Let's see what you got, friend. Export for Arena. Import. All right, something to do with deserts. All right, let's take a look at deserts. I don't know if we need to be 4-color deserts. I think that's already going to be my first complaint. I don't know if 4 colors is where we need to be, but we'll see. I think that's my first thing. It's not so much that the cards are unknown. The issue is that depending on the site, when they go to make their text files, because that's what Arena reads. The issue is that though some sites will put the numbers and the words together, some of them will try to put set abbreviations or whatever behind it, and they have the wrong thing, or they have brackets instead of parentheses or whatever. There's a bunch of different reasons that those won't necessarily pop up. Do I have an opinion on the Prowess Is It Otter's deck in Is It Prowess in Modern? Do I have an opinion on the Prowess Is It Otter? I don't even know what you're trying to say. Do I have an opinion on the Prowess Izzy Otter in Izzy Prowess in Modern? Are you just asking if you should be playing the new Otter? Like, Prowess in Modern doesn't really need the Otters, I guess, if that's what you're asking. Like, there might be one or two that you might consider playing, but those decks are fine without them, I guess, if that's what you're asking. They may find a way to squeeze one or two in, but there's just as many good Prowess efficient cards that probably don't need to be Otters. I mean, I guess in spots where there's like where you have a 2-mana thing with Prowess, you might consider one of the 2-mana Otters that has Prowess, because they usually come with a bonus ability type thing. So, like, maybe. But the best Izzet deck is probably still just Izzet Phoenix, to be honest. I don't even think it's Izzet Prowess. I don't even know if I've seen... I'm going to go take a quick look right now, actually. I don't even think I've seen Izzet Prowess do anything particular in the last... I don't know how many events I've looked up. So, what do we say in Modern? Looking up Izzet stuff. I don't even... Yeah, like... Izzet Phoenix is really the only thing I see pop up regularly in those colors. So you might just be better off playing some variation of Phoenix. I don't know. I haven't been playing much Modern, to be honest. Like, especially with all the other stuff happening in Modern right now and everybody waiting on bans. Wasn't something I was going to start deep diving on, if I'm being real with you. This is made for best of 3. Just wanted to say that also. This is Vector's list. That's fine if it's best of 3. But... I mean, sideboard. Like, we don't even... Like, okay, here's the problem. You're squeezing for white when you don't really need to. There's no real gain happening here, right? Because what's the most you're going to get from Biza to begin with? You don't have a way to really blink it or anything. You're not recurring anything from the graveyard. So, at most, other than being a 4/5 body, right? Like... You're probably not going to get the life because you're doing damage with lands and stuff already. So your life totals are likely to be equal or your opponent's being lower a lot of the time. You are playing a fair amount of creatures yourself. So I don't know how often we get the fish. So you might get a card or two. But even in the sideboard, if our options are playing no witnesses, you don't even need to do that. Black has a couple of sweepers you can play, right? You have, like, Gix's Command. You've got the other one that you can exile a card from the graveyard. Like, you have other choices. You don't need to play no witnesses. There's really just not a need. It just doesn't contribute to what the deck's doing, right? You're not... I mean, occasionally, maybe... well, no, you're not even going to get the treasure because you have all your other stuff, like Free Strider and whatever, putting lands into play. So, yeah, I don't even think I would do that. Like, instead of playing Biza, you could just play, like, what's her name? The big 6-mana thing that makes the Ox. Whatever she is, right? Like, that's probably something I'd be more likely to do. I mean, this deck could also play, I don't know, a few things. But yeah, I don't know, if you do a search on my channel for Desert, like, yeah, Bonnie Paul is what I was thinking of. But, like, I had a blue-green list. I mean, obviously you want to play the Vine Lasher, but the other turtle is better. Like this guy, instead of playing Biza, you get a 4/6. It has reach. You get to find other lands potentially and put those into play, right? Like I would play this before playing Biza. I would play the Tortoise before playing Biza, right? There's a lot of other things. This is a fine list, but it doesn't need white at all. Like, I would just substitute other things. This deck just does not need the white mana at all, just gumming stuff up. Like, I would go hard on the black-green lands, splashing maybe a couple more botanical sanctums or something so you have access to some blue, and then just play however many deserts you want to play after that. That's probably what I would do. I think that would just make the most sense. This whole thing with like arid archways and stuff, like people tried this early on with deserts. I just didn't bother with it. Like, don't get me wrong, it has a little bit of extra value when you can play it with spelunking and whatever. You don't really fall too far behind. But I just didn't enjoy it. Like, the Surveil was okay, but it's not bringing enough to the table for me. You know, I'd rather it just be actual color mana, especially since you're playing 3 colors, even once you get rid of the white. I'd rather have access to more colored mana, so the deck's less clunky, and I'm not having to pick stuff up. And then if you really, like, add another Sandstorm Verge and 3 of some colored mana. That's what I would do. Those are the changes I would make to this. And that just feels like it makes more sense. But yeah, otherwise, not really much to do with it, I don't think. I think it's mostly probably playable as is. My versions, I didn't even bother with spelunking. I didn't feel like I was getting enough value just getting a random untapped land. You know, like, my mana wasn't hurt all that much either way. So, up to you if you want to play it or not. I just wanted more business cards more than anything. So, do I think Urtai is a good choice? It's fine. I mean, I don't know if you need it, though. I mean, you're playing 3 steps ahead. You're playing Bitter Triumph, Fell, Go for the Throat. Like, do you need her? Like, it's not a bad card. I just don't know if you need it. That's the biggest thing. All right, let me check back in the Discord and see what we got going on here. All right, we're adding Guadara to the free queue. And it looks like Wachivo has resubmitted, so we will check that out and see what we got. All right, let's export this. And I'll probably come around to doing another desert deck at some point in the later this season. I just haven't got around to doing one yet. All right. Into the Flood Maw. We have Shore Up, Storm Chaser's Talent, Monstrous Rage. Gets that. I've been 50-50 on Thundertrap Trainer. I have a list where I'm playing it, and then I have some others I've tested where I didn't. I like the fact that it helps you find another card. My problem is I sort of feel like after I have it, though, it just feels bad. It's just a 1-2 that doesn't do anything, you know? So I don't know how valuable it is. Like, getting another card is obviously good, so I'm not going to say it's trash, but after you get the card, it feels so much worse than every other card in the deck. Don't think you need Storm Splitter. Don't think you need Ill-Time Explosion. That's not what this deck's trying to do. Transcendent Message just seems way too expensive for what this deck's trying to do. You should be trying to maximize your small spells. Obviously, Kitsa's fine. I don't know. I'd rather just play a straight-up burn spell instead of having to have played a second spell to get the trigger or whatever. It's not that it's bad, but I'd rather just, like, if you don't have a play on turn 1, just kill your opponent's thing, especially against, like, mono red or whatever. Just having, like, shocks and lightning strikes are probably just better in a lot of cases. Obviously, you can max out your rage. Here's an interesting thing, right? When you're playing things like Into the Flood Maw, 3 steps ahead, they are really defensive cards, and they don't allow you to take advantage of your prowess triggers, right? Because you're just sitting on the mana more often than not. So that's not saying it's a bad card. I think you still play some number of them, but just think about that in your deck building a lot of the times. Valley Floodcaller is another one that I'm kind of trying to decide how I feel about this, because it does have flash, which is nice, and obviously getting to untap your creatures is powerful. But I feel like every time this is, like, I accept that the card is good and it has the right words. You know what I mean? But every time it's been played against me, I have beaten the Otter's deck. Like, I have no losses when my opponent has played the Valley Floodcaller with whatever deck I'm playing. But fundamentally, I still understand that this card is good, right? And that's where I'm struggling with this card, because at 3 mana, it does everything we want it to do for a 3 mana card, right? It has flash, it can give all your other creatures a bonus, but realistically, I think the issue is I need this and something, whether that's a Shore Up, a Monstrous Rage, a Shock, whatever, some 1 mana thing, so I can really take advantage of it. Otherwise, it's just like a junky 3 mana 2/2, the turn I play it. Which Evo says, yeah, I found it interesting to try to convoke out spells with Valley Flood Caller because a Flood Caller untapped. Yeah, exactly. That's the benefit, right? If you have any of those convoke cards, then it's really, really powerful. There was the one card that, like, if you control an Otter... What is that? Do I not have one crafted? I probably don't. Okay, maybe that's not how it's worded. Well, something that has Otter in the text. What is the card? It's like it's cheaper. Well, this isn't bad either. This is pretty good. If you just want to draw cards cheaply, that's for 2 mana. That's pretty good. But that's not the card I was thinking of. Where is it? Maybe I don't actually have one. Okay, maybe I just made up a card in my head. Maybe the card I'm thinking of doesn't actually exist. I swear there was a thing that got... I don't know. Am I making this up? I had to have been making it up. Alright, well, never mind. I was thinking of something else. Not Pearl of Wisdom. I do like this card, and I would play it, for sure. But, yeah, I think when we're trying to go into the Slick Shot sequence, you don't need Storm Splitter, you don't need Ill-Time Explosion. I think the trick is, like, you want to be as much business as possible, if that makes sense. Right? So I'm kind of, like, just moving some number, because I've been messing with this a little bit. I don't really care about Into Flood Maw all that much. But yeah, there was some card. Is it blue-red, the card I'm thinking of? No, this is actually pretty cool, though. No, I thought there was something that had some effect, and then if you controlled, like, an Otter, Frog, something, there was something else. But maybe not. I don't know. There's so many new cards. I could have just made that up. I'm not going to lie. Like, who knows? It could have been anything. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. Yeah, Pearl of Wisdom, I think, needs to be in the list somewhere. I mean, just 2 mana, get a couple of cards is really strong. How many creatures are even in here right now? Only 11? I mean, technically it's 15, because you have the Storm Chaser's talent. Oh, man. I think this is the problem, too, is like... And this is the thing I'm sort of facing with Otters myself, is that when you don't have Prowess, your Otters are really small compared to everything else, right? There's a bunch of 1/1s, 1/2s, 2/2s, right? And that's kind of the reason I want more 1-mana things, I think, is the issue. Is like... That's why I like having the extra shocks and things, because it feels like you need to have those constantly. Shocks, lightning strikes, whatever, so you can just get across the finish line. Otterball Antics, is that it? Creative Prowess, played from anywhere other than a hand. No, that's not the card I was thinking of. I could have made up a card, honestly. I've been looking at so many Magic cards the last couple weeks since Bloomburrow came out. It may not even be a thing. But yeah, I think this is kind of the issue you're just at with Otters right now. It's like, it's that balance of you need to have enough creatures that matter, but at the same time, you need to have enough spells to be able to trigger all your creatures, right? And it's hard to have both. Oh wait, was it just this thing? Exile target creature you control, then return to the battlefield under its own scroll. If the creature was Frog, Bird, Otter, Rat. Yeah. Okay. Maybe not. I thought it was an instant. This is a sorcery, though. I was thinking as a way to, like, protect one of your own cards, but at that point, you just play Shore Up. Yeah, I don't want to get, like... Yeah, this is just tough. Like, I don't want that. Probably only need, like, 2 Ral. Man, this is just so tight here. Get rid of that. I'd probably play, like I said, some number of shocks so you have some cheap spells. And then still squeeze in 2 more creatures of some kind. And to be honest, they probably don't even need to be Otters, because only 1 card really cares about a thing being particularly an Otter. I mean, I guess Floodcaller also cares. But there's anything when you play non-creature, actually play particularly an instant or sorcery, there's probably still options available. if you wanted to do other things. So yeah, I don't know. I'd probably just play something else with Prowess in the slot. I don't even know if it needs to be an Otter, truthfully. I mean, this isn't bad. This isn't bad. Obviously, Monastery Swift Spear is good. So, like, something like that. I mean, you could also just play Slick Shots, right? Play 2 or 3 of those. Like, that's a real option, too. I mean, it's a flyer. Still does what the deck's trying to do for the most part. You know, maybe something like that. Still allows you to be aggressive. Still do all the things you want to do. Still have a lot of non-creature spells. Probably is closer. Again, I'm 50-50 on the Valley Flood Caller. I'd have to really think about how many I want of this versus something else. But, again, you only have a couple of cards that care particularly about a thing being an Otter. So sometimes you might just play the better card that still does the same thing that happens to not be an Otter. And in this case, it's mostly just wanting to play stuff with Prowess. So, it's probably where I would be. Something in this ballpark. We increase the number of creatures here. That's true. Slick Shot is a bird. It does get untapped. I mean, that's a real thing. But then this way, we up the number of creatures to effectively 17, you know, counting the talent. So that's a little better. Balances those numbers out just a little bit more, I think. But yeah, so anybody that wants to hop into the queue, if you just joined the stream, there are a couple of things we're doing. As the queue grows, it's obviously going to be harder to get into the queue. We have a free queue that you're just kind of at the mercy of whatever's there. If you make a donation on Twitch and or YouTube, then you get to skip the line and you get to be next up. That's just kind of how we got to do things. So I will put the link here again. If you want to join, you got to go to Discord. You got to go to the standard section and you have to post a link to your deck. Not the deck list, but a link to your deck. All right. So, actually, it looks like we may be coming up on a full queue, actually. So, let's see. What did we just look at? We looked at Wachivo's Otter deck, right? So, we got that through. We already looked at Vectors. Pages, did you resubmit? Okay, that's down the list. All right, so we'll get to Pages next. So, we have to do Pages, then Melon Guardian. Looks like you also resubmitted, so you would be next. Then Guadara, you are after them. Acheron, you will be next after that. Catastrophe, and actually this is probably, yeah, if you weren't already in, this is probably, we're probably not even going to get to everybody. It's on the list now in the free queue. Captain Antagonist. This is probably going to be a case of paid queues are probably going to end up skipping the line. Lions, and then, oh my gosh, how do we say that? Ace of Asaka, you would be next up. So that is the order as it stands. All right, anything from there, just be paid queue, gets to go to the front of the line. Otherwise, we're probably already going to be just booked up, so a little bit tough. Let's see what we got here. Why not playing Elusive Otter? What is Elusive Otter? Because it doesn't really do anything in here. Like, you're just playing a 1/1 Prowess. Like, it's cool that sometimes you can get it through and it's not going to be able to be blocked, but you get, like, for 1 mana, you're getting so much more from the other cards in the deck. Like, you can effectively get the Elusive Otter on the back of a Storm Chaser's talent, right? You don't get the, like, can't be blocked option, but you get so much more for that same 1 mana. So, like, that's my suggestion. Like, can you still play it? Sure. If you don't have some of the other cards, definitely substitute it. I just think it's a little bit inferior. Antonio says, I'm new to Magic. Should I be fine playing a fun deck and wait for Duskmourn to come out before I make a standard deck? I like the horror aspect. That's a personal choice. I mean, that just depends on how long you want to wait or how much you want to play, right? Like, I can't tell you how to spend your dollars, but it's fine. By the way, you know, self-promotion, but I have merch, if you didn't know. You can get the link on my YouTube videos. It's always at the bottom of every video. It even has a little merch shelf that shows the link. You should buy some and support your boy. Also surprised that this thing's like a metal material, which is super nice. I thought it was going to be plastic when I had them made. Okay. Hey, Buggy. What else we got doing here? Fleeting Reflection is instant. Speed, blue-red, that might be useful. Like, maybe. All right. Anyway, I got to get to the next person. Let's go to Pages. So it looks like Pages resubmitted, so we will snag their lists. Let's see what we got. I also need to close some of these other tabs. By the way, man, if y'all ever saw my screen, y'all would cry. I keep way too many tabs open. Like, I have people that genuinely ask, like, how do you work like that? Man, I don't know. I like, the thing is, a real answer why I do it, though, is I'm always in front of my computer, and I'm working on multiple things, or I'm responding to people for different things, because I'm part of different groups and all that. So just having the tabs up saves me the time of having to, like, type in the URL, do the login, whatever, right? I can just leave them up and just bounce around, and it's so much better. It's super nice. And I don't know what that number is, but the way I figured out is, like, if I'm saving myself even 10 seconds per thing, and I would be opening some number of 30 website pages throughout the day, like, that's actual literal minutes I'm saving every day, which by the end of the year ends up being hours. So while it seems a little bit crazy, it's actually for efficiency's sake. It's kind of like, did y'all see Pursuit of Happiness, the Will Smith movie? Like, it's all based on a real guy. One of the ways he talks about how he got ahead at the call center is he never physically hung up the phone, right? Because he realized just, like, putting it down, picking it up, dialing again, like, was wasting time. So at the end of the day, he could get, like, 2 more calls in than everybody else. So he literally would just hit the receiver and then just start dialing, right? Like, so, like, little stuff like that makes a big difference. I know it's kind of silly, but yeah, there's nothing to talk about here. This is a bat deck. I mean, there's really, like, I don't know if you need Valley Quest Caller. I mean, I would probably just play something else in its place, but for the most part, this is a bat deck. Max out your Deep Cavern Bats. Instead of playing Valley Quest Caller, you could play, like, Amalia. But there's really not much else to say here. Like, this, pick your bats, pick your life gain options, go to town. I mean, yeah, this is a bat deck. I don't know, any like $2, like anything over $2, I will be happy with. I'm not trying to make a bunch of money off of it. I mean, I appreciate it. I've had people donate $10 or whatever, and it's awesome, and I feel great when that happens. But you don't have to. Yeah, this is kind of like, and this is the type of thing, like, not to be insulting, but there's nothing to contribute here. Like, I have a bat deck. Every creator has a bat deck. You don't even need Biza in here. Like, you're already gaining and losing life so fast. Biza doesn't do anything but just be a 4 or 5 body on the ground. All your stuff mostly flies anyway. Yeah, super chats and bits on Twitch. Like, but yeah, this is, again, not to be rude, not trying to insult you, but it's just a bat deck. There's not a lot to really talk about. If there was, like, a particular serious problem I thought bats were dealing with, I would contribute something, but bats are mostly a fine deck right now. There's really not a lot to do there. Looking at Melon Guardian, you are next up. Let me go pull that up, and we'll see what we got. Bring that over to MTG Arena, and we have a nihilist of some kind. All right, let's see what we're doing here. We've got Gleeful Demolition, Valley Mike Caller, Carrot Cake. Why is Gleeful Demolition in here? Like, we only have one. Okay, there. Yeah. Whew. Okay, there's too much happening here. Too much happening, right? Like, Mike Caller, I at least get, because you're having a bunch of rabbits. Cool. Gleeful Demolition, we only have Carrot Cake, right? Unless we target our own stuff with Get Lost. So I just wouldn't even bother with that. Like, that seems highly inefficient. This is going to be dead more often than not. Like, especially if you're playing against, like, Mono Red, Gruul Aggro, whatever. Like, they don't even have artifacts you could target to get rid of. So this is going to be dead way too often. Honestly, this deck doesn't even need red. Like, you're not even really gaining anything by having Terror of the Peaks. Like, if I was going to do something else instead of Terror of the Peaks, I would just play, like, Elspeth. right? It's another thing that makes tokens that contributes to this whole plan we've got going on. You could play War Leader's Call if you want to do that. That's an option. You know, if you still wanted to keep red, I don't know that you need red though, but like if you wanted to, that's what I would play it for, because Pro DM Joey, yeah, you get to go to the front of the line. I'll put you in the paid queue. Just hop into the standard Discord, Discord into the standard section, post your deck list, or link to your deck list. Yeah, I think that's my issue here. I don't know that you need the red, is the real thing. Like, you could also play some number of the rabbits that just get bigger, have trample, right? That thing? Where's that? Oh, yeah, and then there's Paw Patch Recruit, which is a good quality card. You could play that, too. Do I not have any of that guy crafted? It's an uncommon, I think. Yeah, this suit. I guess I don't. All right, but yeah, Beauregard Mentor, right? You could play this since you're already doing tokens and other things, right? And you don't even have to put red in the deck. I think that's totally fine. Carrot Cake's okay. I would probably play either of these over Carrot Cake. But yeah, I would cut the Demolitions. I would cut the Terror of the Peaks. You could play another removal card if you wanted to. You could max out your Hop Tuits, because that's a uncommon, so that's a fairly budget option, right? You could play a couple of these guys, play a couple of these guys. And yeah, I would probably play some other removal thing. Maybe if I cut like a Hop Tuit, maybe. Phineas is actually okay, but it's also a little bit of a trap. I like the fact that it has reach, because then you could block some of the stuff against the mono red decks, which is cool. But it is only a 2/2 that you have to run into combat for it to get its bonus, right? So that's a thing to kind of be aware of. But, I mean, you do have Case of the Gateway, that it does count as another removal card. Yeah, maybe like Recruits, another Beauregard. I don't need to craft it. A third Beauregard. And then like Elspeth, probably. And then that gives you some other options against like sweepers and things like that. Like, you have enough on the upper end that if they were to play like temporary lockdown, you could still draw an Elspeth or a War Leader or whatever, right? Still have stuff to do. You could get some early turns where you like recruit into Bunnycorn and like hop to it into Knight Errant, right? Like, those are real turns you could have. And I think those are a bit more efficient than trying to play the red stuff. Now, if you wanted to play red, the choice I would go with is over the Elspeth, cut one Paw Patch Recruit, cut maybe even one Bunnycorn, and then just play like 3 War Leader's Call, right? I think there's a version that could look like cut an Elspeth, cut... I guess we go down another Recruit, and then play like 3 War Leader Call. Something like that, right? Because then this also makes your stuff bigger, and you get to deal damage when your tokens are coming into play, like that whole thing. So, like, this is another way you could probably do it, and that still keeps your threat density pretty high. It's at 20, plus Elspeth makes tokens or whatever. So, like, that's another way you could go about it, I think, and still have a fair amount of removal. Actually, even have more than that, because technically the Hop Tuits are also creatures. So you have 23 plus, effectively. So, like, that's probably another way I would go about this. But yeah, I don't think you needed the other cards. I think they weren't contributing enough overall, personally. Balin was okay. I think Balin still needs to be refined a bit, but the card drawing from Balin was the biggest thing. However, this list doesn't make that many tokens, right? Balin's good when you have way more tokens, but really, even if you put the 3 Carrot Cakes back in, you really only had Hop Tuit and Carrot Cake making tokens, right? I mean, technically the War Leader made tokens, but like that's way later. So you wouldn't really get much off of Balin unless you're going harder on the tokens, I think. So that would be my idea. Okay, so Pro DM Joey is next up here. Pappy Slappy says, "Hi, new. I recognize you from the YouTube commercials for Arena, so thought I would see what you're about." Well, welcome. You'd be surprised the number of people that have said they recognize me from those commercials, which is hilarious. I did not think those were going to get around that much, but they have apparently. So glad people at least remember them, and I didn't completely embarrass myself. All right, let's hop in here. Let's see. DJ, yeah, if you're in the free queue after Asa Wasaka, which I called out earlier, we're not going to get to you. There's just too many people in the queue right now. So unless you're in the paid queue to skip the line, we're probably not getting to you. So that would be like Moose Thompson, Travis Decker. Like, unfortunately, y'all were just later in the queue. We're just not going to get there. But there are two other things you can do. After the stream, you can just come hang out in the Discord. Everybody's always working on decks in the Discord. So if you want help, there will be help. Also, if you're a level 3 member on YouTube, I have that set up so my level 3 members get to just send me a list directly. And that's the one way in my actual emails I deal with deck lists for people. So if you just want that privately, anytime, back and forth emails, like, that's the way to go if you want to get personalized help. And it's only like $5, I think. So just a thing. All right, let's go here. What do we got? What is this? Did it not load or did it already load and I had all the cards already? Okay, Steed has needs. Okay, here we go. Pappy says, I think I net decked your Joan Dragons a few years back. Oh, well, that's awesome. All right. So let's see what we got here. We've got Ruin Lurker Bat. We have Skrelv, some Evolving Adaptive, Hard-Hitting Questions, Paw Patch Recruits. So we're playing Wily Duke, but do we only have one mount? Yeah, I don't think we need Wily Duke in this list. She doesn't do anything. Like, I mean, she's a 4/2 for 3 with Vigilance, but, like, ultimately, we're almost never going to get her tapped, right? Because nothing else in here taps the card. It's like, yeah, I don't know if I would go that route. I think the issue overall with this, there's a few things. Like, Seraphic Steed's fine. But I think we need to be going harder if you're really wanting to play the Steed. Because the Steed itself is only a 2/2, right? Yeah, so you either have to have a way to get this pumped up, or it does have First Strike, but we don't really have ways to pump this other than the Aloe Alchemist. So that's kind of tough. I think if I were going to make a suggestion, I would either just make this a completely mono green deck, or if you really, really wanted to play the Steed and such, I would focus on +1/+1 counters. Both so you can have consistently larger creatures that you can mount the Steed with, but also so the Steed itself is harder to kill when you actually attack with it. Skrelv doesn't really help the Steed because you still have to mount the Steed to get the bonus. So you'd have to have another thing to mount the Steed, then you have to have Skrelv to make the Steed unblockable. Like, that's a lot to ask, right? That's saying your opponent didn't have a removal card on turn 1, turn 2, or turn 3, effectively. Right? Like, that's a lot to say they have no way to deal with that. And all of that happened, right? You want Steed to be workable with just one other thing, effectively. So you want to maximize that out. Even right now, where they have, like, the 3/3 raccoon, like, that dude is at least playable on its own, and it's a 3/3. This guy, right? So you automate, like, you could play Steed and then this, or this and then Steed, or whatever. Like, it's just one more thing that you can use, right? That's of size. So those are my thoughts. I don't, because realistically, I feel like we made concessions in this list to play the Steed, but we really didn't commit to it, if that makes sense, right? Like, we have a few things that can mount the Steed, but like Wily Duke is just kind of hanging out because most of the time it's just going to be a bad card if you don't draw the steed, or if the steed gets killed, like it just doesn't have value, right? Like that's part of a problem. Again, you can just go mono green and just be consistently larger and just run your opponent down, right? You could max out your contaminators, you could max out your scrap shooters, you can match out sharp-eyed rookie, you could then play the, what's it called? The 2-mana thing that gets bigger for the number of forests. Like, you have a bunch of other options. Like, even Ruin Lurker isn't bringing anything to the table because it's just a 1/1. Like, you'll get some incidental life gain here and there, but, like, you don't even have a way to put counters on it, except for Paw Patch Recruit, but you need them to target something that's not the Ruin Lurker to be able to put the counters on it, you know? So I think that's kind of the issue here. We have a lot of parts that aren't working in unison. So I have a mono green list on my channel already if you just want to go look at a mono green deck. But there's a version of it already up, I think. But that's an idea I would go with. Nothing wrong with playing white. I think there are some ways you can do it. But I feel like if you were going to play white and you want to play like Wily Duke, I would even go a step further. Like I said, playing the +1/+1 counters. So then you could play stuff like the, what is that guy? Oh, actually, I can just put counters in here. That'd be fine. And just go to the green cards. The 2/2 for 3 mana that puts a counter, and then you tap it. It doubles counters when you mount it. Oh, what is that guy called? This guy, the Ornery Tumblewag, right? Like, you could play this. That would fit in there. That also allows you to play stuff like Aquarian Beastcaller, if you want to do that. You could still play, well, actually, this is a reasonable versatility spell. You could still play the Ozolith is still a thing. Yeah, it just makes the deck completely different. I think realistically, the issue here, I would say, is figure out what you want the deck to do. I think that's the first thing. Is decide, are you wanting to be a mount deck? Are you wanting to be a life gain deck? Are you wanting to be a +1/+1 counters deck? Are you wanting to just be a downhill aggro deck, right? Then when you figure that out, we can start zoning everything else in. Because right now you're like a little bit of aggro, a little bit of mount, trying to be a little tricky with some stuff like Trailblazer and the Ruin Lurker Bat. Like there's a few different things happening here that, while they're all creatures, don't kind of contribute to the same plan. So I think that's the issue. This is more about, none of the cards in the list are particularly awful, right? Like, you've chosen good cards. The problem here is we now need to pick a lane so we can get all the right cards into the same lane that work together. That's my assessment there. I think we just have to do a lot more. Oh, did we have some raiders come in when I wasn't paying attention when I was talking about decks? Well, welcome those of you that came in with the big raid. Also, some different subscribers came here. Why is my stuff not going off? Why are my notifications not happening? Okay, there we go. Now we should hear them all. They were off. That's why I didn't hear anything. Well, Nerdy Senpai, thanks for bringing your crew of 66 over with you. Also, subscribers for subscribing. Thank you so much. I was wondering what was going on, and I didn't see my little notifications. Much appreciated to all of you. All right. Back at it, though. All right. So that's Joey. And next up, we already went through Mellow Guardian. So, Guadara, you are next up. And Acheron, you are on deck. So, be ready when it's your turn. All right, let's go in here. Let's see what we got. At this point, like I said, the free queue is full. If you want to get into the paid queue, that's the other option if you want to skip the line. And any type of donation of like $2 plus, whether it's bits or super chats, works. All right. Let's bring this up. This is for Guadara. And this says Mardu tokens. All right, let's see what we're working with here. We have some cut downs, duress, dust, animus. I don't know how well this fits a token plan. Let's see. Get Lost, Bitter Triumph, Bats, Abrade, LSO Core, like you said. We're not really doing tokens much at all. Okay, here are the tokens. We had to get way down the list to get some. Lord Skitter, Urbrask. Oh my goodness. Nahiri's in here? Yeah, no. This is okay, and we're at 75 cards. Like, that's already another problem. We are way over 60. This is too many. And you only had 24 land. Okay, oh boy. Oh boy. Whew. Alright. I'm gonna take a sip out of my fancy PowrDragn mug. Available over on my YouTube store, by the way. But this has a lot of work we need to do. This is a case of we're trying to do a lot, but we're not really focused. This is, and again, well, except for Nahiri. I was going to say none of these cards are bad, but Nahiri's pretty bad. But generally, these are reasonable cards. The problem is we're playing a lot of removal, and then we're playing this thing that cares about tokens, but then we only really have, what are we going to call this? 7, 8 cards making tokens? I mean, War Leader technically does way down the road, but 3 mana or less, we really only have like 8 things making tokens. So like this Caretaker's talent really isn't even going to do much in this case for the majority of the game. And I feel like our removal kind of needs to be a little more focused, right? Like, we have Cut Down, we have Get Lost, we have Bitter Triumph, we have Abrade, we have Lightning Helix, like, we have Liliana, like Voldaren Thrillseeker doesn't do a lot in here. I mean, like, you could put some counters on Animpakal, which is kind of nice, but I would question, and yeah, everybody keeps wanting to put Biza in every deck because you have white. Like, this is another list where, what are you getting off Biza, right? You're trying to be the aggressor with Animpakal, whatever, so you're probably going to have more life. And you're playing Lightning Helix, right? You are trying to make tokens, so you're hoping to have more than your opponent, so you're not going to get the fish. Might get the treasure, but this deck doesn't really have much to do with treasure, because it's not like we're spending that much mana. So at best, you're getting a card when you play it. I don't think this is where you want her, right? So, oh man, there's so many things here. You know what? I bet I already have a list like this, because I feel like I played one in our rotation ready stuff. I do. I have one that was a Pia list, actually. Oh no, it's a War Leader list. We just put this up a couple days ago. Yeah, you could just copy that one. And it's going to be, I'll give you 2 options, actually. So there's this list, which you can have, which is a Pia focus list. And then we have another one that was more about Comball, which I think is a better card. Being able to like deal damage, copy tokens, whatever. And kind of further your plan a little bit. But yeah, both of those I think are probably quality. As a matter of fact, I might even have them still here. So let me take a look at those real quick and I will bring those up. Because I feel like I probably still have them here. Let's go to Mardu colors. Did I delete them? I just have this War Leader Rats list left. But I think this was the Comball list that's up. But the difference is, too, look how tight and focused this list is, right? It's cheap early creatures, things that make additional tokens, reinforcements to make extra tokens. We have Bats still. We still have some removal with the Get Lost and Go for the Throat. Lord Skitter, Comball, which is getting a benefit from all the tokens, Animpakal, which is making more tokens, War Leader's Call, which is giving us damage and making bigger tokens, and then Song of Totentans, if we need something after a sweeper to just make like 4 or 5 guys, which might be larger because of War Leader's Call, right? Just really simple, really tight, like focused on doing what it's trying to do, right? Cards that make an additional token, unless they have other utility like Deep Cavern Bats for obvious reasons. But generally, it's a bunch of stuff that makes tokens or gets benefits from tokens, right? And our removal. That's what you want. No need to get out of that lane. Now, could you swap the removal inside instead of playing like some number of Get Lost and Go for Throat? You can play Lightning Helix or absolutely, right? Like those are flexible. But the focus of the list, this type of thing. And then, like I said, one of the other links is to a Pia list that actually gets you the flyers and whatever else and still focus on doing that token generation. But I would do something like this and just be more focused. Because the problem with the other list, other than being 75 cards, you're playing 75 cards with 24 lands, which means you're going to have mana issues a lot, right? You're going to get to 2 or 3 lands and then just kind of be stuck for turns because you just don't have the right proportion of lands on top of it. That's the main reason everybody wants to be as close to 60 as possible, right? For consistency. So you can draw what you want when you want it, right? So you can plan on it. You only have 4 cards, right? You only have 4 copies. So 1 in 12 shots, or whatever, 1 in 15 shots, is going to actually be the card you want, right? At 60 cards. Once you start getting above that, when you're at 75, well, now you're talking about 1 in 18 cards. You know, so like that makes it harder for you to draw what you need. Right? It's really kind of just the basic stuff there. Yeah, there are no more. We're not adding any more to the free queue. If you're behind Asa Wasaka, that's it. Like there's only paid queue spots left. There's no more free queue spots. We are full as far as that goes. But yeah, I would check those 2 lists out if you want to do Mardu tokens. I think that's going to be a more consistent situation for you. All right, let's see who is next up. We have Acheron, which puts Batrophy on deck. So let's see what we got here. Batastrophe, I should say, is the actual name. But let's go get this for Acheron off of Moxfield, which has been super good to my channel. Thank you to Moxfield, by the way. They really are nice to me. All right. Let's go back to our decks and load this up. And let's see what we got here. Quick Ors, it says. So I'm assuming that's Quick Orzhov is what we're doing. So we have Novus Inspector, Seasoned Warren Guard. So we're making tokens, so this attacks as a 3/2. Cut down Ichor Drinker. Not my first choice, but it's not terrible. Lava Spur Boots, Bright Blade Stoat, that's kind of cute. Not feeling the Builder's Talents. Not feeling the Builder's Talents. Whenever 1 or more non-land, non-permanent cards you control. Like, I think my problem here with Builder's Talent is this. This deck isn't trying to be defensive, so playing a thing that just makes an 0/4 wall isn't contributing to your plan. So then you have to make a 3-mana investment, and then... well, you don't even have that many non-creature spells or permanents. So, like, yeah, I don't... yeah, Builder's Talent's just not cutting it for me. I can't justify it with what I'm looking at. Shrouded Shepherd, I at least get. This is decent. Use it against the tokens decks. Deep Cavern Bat. Fungal Fortitude. Man, I hate these types of cards. I hate these types of cards. Unless I'm playing very particularly... stuff like the, you know, if you're playing like the, what's that thing? The 3/3 Phyrexian thing that has like ward of you lose life equal to its power or whatever that thing is, right? Like if you have that, then like when it dies, it comes back as a 7/5. Then like this card's pretty sweet. If you have the Steel Seraph, right? You have a 3/3, it comes back as a 5/4 with abilities, right? That's pretty sweet. So then you play something like this. Otherwise, like, what are we protecting with this? Like a Stoat? I mean, it could give the Stoat +2, which could give it a cool first strike, right? But could this just be some other better spell that either just removes a creature or just is a better card, right? Something bigger. Like, that's kind of my issue here. Like, Vanity is fine, but in a lot of cases, would we not just be better off having another cut down? Because the other 2 parts of, like, getting a food and a wicked roll doesn't really do a lot for this deck. I don't think. I would rather this just be some other threat, I think, is the problem. Like, either more removal, just hard removal, or a threat of some kind. But yeah, I think that's my issue. This doesn't feel quick enough, if that makes sense. Like these are all very small creatures with very minimal ways to make them better. I think is part of the problem. Like Shroud helps for a turn with the Stoat, awesome. With other stuff, it's like, well, it's all right. You know, you get a 3/3, whatever. But I at least like the Shroud just straight up with Stoat. Stoat's pretty cool. I think that could be a thing. This is obviously a reasonable budget pile too. Don't hate that, right? Like that's a thing. But yeah, I just feel like we could be doing more. Like I don't know what these slots need to be, but they need to be something. I there's got to be a better thing we can play. Also, this deck right now, super susceptible to even just a temporary lockdown, right? Temporary lockdown, Gix's command, any of that stuff that just kills small creatures. Like, this deck just doesn't do anything after that. So I would want some things with these remaining 7 slots. At least 3 of them being some other hard removal. And then probably the other 4 being some 3 or 4 mana thing. I think would be the big deal. Like, well, even if we cut lands, we're going to do cut a land, cut a second land. Like, that's not enough. I think we... Because the thing is, like, Ichor Drinker doesn't do much. It really doesn't. Like, I've seen this in a lot of people's lists. But, like, you chump block with it. And then, all right, cool. Now I have an Incubate token. Like, okay, cool. It's not bad. And it gives you something to do after a sweeper. But it's not spectacular. So, yeah, I'd be looking for more of something. I don't know what something is, but I feel like some creature that's 3 or 4 mana, and I don't even know what I want it to be. Anointed Peacekeeper still kind of sweet, actually. Claim Jumper never gets played. But really, you just be getting lands with it. That doesn't help this deck all too much. Delny's kind of sweet in the sense that your creatures are all kind of small. They don't really have that many abilities, though, that trigger, unfortunately. Yeah, here's the thing, though, y'all. We were talking about this earlier. Like, most budget decks are not going to be great. Like, you are going to have to invest some amount in at least a handful of rares or mythics. Now, don't be wrong. If you just need to knock out your dailies and you want to play in the play queue or whatever, go for it. Makes a lot of sense, right? You just want to get your gold for the day, play black and white cards, do your thing. Nothing wrong with it. But inevitably, it is just going to be better with some number of rares, or even if it's just like we're saying, your 4 to 6 cards out of your top end or something. Probably reasonable. But I mean, even having like Get Lost, right? Oh, I guess I need to get these off. But this is a rare, but it's worth it, right? You're going to put this in a bunch of different lists if you're playing white. So you might as well have it, right? It's the most versatile removal that white has. The only thing it doesn't get rid of is artifacts. So playing even like 3 of these still gives you slots to play 4 of something, and probably needs to be split 2 and 2 or whatever the top end would be. But I don't know what you would want that to be. Now, if the goal is to keep this budget, and let's say you only want it to be commons and uncommons, like, we can go look at that. But I will say, no matter what, there is going to be a ceiling. I mean, just being honest, like, you're going to have a hard ceiling if you're playing just commons and uncommons. That's just the way it is, right? So let's take these Get Lost out of here. I'm just looking to see, like, what would I play above, and maybe I'm still looking at the upper end. Like, is there anything worth playing in those other spots? Once you play small creatures on budget, maybe play Gateway. Yeah, with case of the Getaway Express, like, that's reasonable. I'm just looking to see, like, are there no quality creatures at 3 and 4 mana that are commons and uncommons? Like, has to be targeted, so that's not great. This is not a good selection. like I'm very I've generally not just went like, what are the common and uncommon cards at this cost? Like, they're not good. There's a lot of bad cards here. Which is crazy because we have so many good like small commons and uncommons, but man, these are severely disappointing. Like, I've never really thought about it, but very disappointing. Like, this is not cool. Um yeah, I think I like that idea. What if we do the case, right? What if we do that? Let's go case. Oh yeah, because I'm still on commons and uncommons. Oh wait, I'm still on the cost. Gosh dang it. Stop. There we go. Alright. So this is an uncommon, right? So we go case of the Gateway Express. At least 3. Maybe we could get a 4th one in. And then, like, for one of our rares, we could go with the rat that makes the tokens, the 3/3, right? Like, that's reasonable. And then something, I don't know what the other thing is. Like, Elspeth makes tokens, and that could kind of fit here with what we're doing. It's another creature. It can give something flying. So, like, maybe something like that. Still minimum rares and mythics. This is a lot tighter, though, and at least allows you to do something late game. You're not completely hosed by temporary lockdown. Still have a lot of creatures, right? We're at 26, so that's still pretty good. Yeah, maybe something like this. Like, obviously, yeah, but here's the problem. Once we start going into Preacher and doing all their stuff, now we're just eating up all their rares. You know? Like, if their goal was to keep this budget, this is probably as close as we can get, because you still, honestly, need to be playing, like, just crafting some lands. Like, obviously, the black-white fast lands, probably the pain land as well, like, just for consistency's sake. But if you don't have it, you don't have it. Like, that's reasonable. But if you do, I would go ahead and get them in there, because you're going to reuse those lands anyway in other decks. But yeah, something like that would probably be my guess. Just make it tighter, be able to do a little bit more, you know, something in this space. Those are my thoughts, though. And they could be completely wrong, and that's okay, too. Actually, I probably would cut one of the Warren Guards and play another Lord Skitter, now that I'm thinking about it. But alright. So that was Asheron, Batrophy, you are up, and Captain Antagonist will be on deck. So let me hop back in the Discord and grab a deck list from Batastrophe. Yeah, and for those of you that just joined at this point, the free queue is full, so if you want to get in at this point, you have to join the paid queue. Alright, let's take a look here. Let's bring this up. Let's get rid of this. And by the way, I don't want to sound like I'm telling you don't ever build a budget deck, because, like, you do what you got to do, you know, if you're tight on cards or whatever. But as you get the rares, don't be afraid to add the rares and make your deck a little bit better. This is just another version of Bats, right? You just chosen, instead of going straight Bats, to play some amount of Delny plus Roaming Throne. Like, there's really not a lot to contribute here. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess we're limited on rares, but I would have just maxed out Essence Channeler. I would have maxed out Deep Cavern Bats, because this is probably the best card in the deck, and Deep Cavern Bats is super good, and it gains life to contribute to the rest of the game plan. I don't know if we need 4 Roaming Throne. I don't know if we need 4 Delny. And Delny with Dark Star Augur could be detrimental, potentially, because it lets them trigger twice. Yeah, like, I'm going to say this. Like, I've seen Delny in some of these lists, and I just feel like they're just better when you're playing like Amalia and stuff like that. I don't know if there's a need to try to do all this. Like, my question would be, this is the way I would approach it. What is the deck doing better with Roaming Throne and Delny than bats are doing in their other versions already? Outreach Gamer says, came in from Nerdy's raid. Thanks. Oh, yeah, I almost killed somebody earlier because they drew their... Oh, no, there is a video coming where I kill an opponent because they lose 7 life and they put themselves down to 12 at that point in the game, and it makes it easier for me to kill them. Zipping Lake says, just want to give you a shout out. I used a burn deck of yours, got a few packs. Awesome. Glad it worked for you. But yeah, I think that's my issue here. Like, this is largely just a bat deck. Though Starscape Cleric doesn't seem like it works as well when you are playing Delny and Roaming Throne. Because now, realistically, the consistent life gain you have is only really just Case and Duo. So yeah, I don't like that as much. I like the way the bats are doing otherwise. Like the black-white enchantment that like you get a free bat, you drain your opponent's life total. I think those are just better. I think this is getting tricky. Like, I feel like this built a different mousetrap, but not a better mousetrap, if that makes sense. Like, I think it can still get across the finish line, but I don't know if it's doing it any better than the other versions of the bats that we've seen, I think is the issue. Unfortunately, the free queue is now full, so the only way you can do it is you can make a $2 or better donation on Twitch or YouTube, and you can skip the line. But we still have several people to get to in the free queue, so we're not adding any more to the free queue. But yeah, that would be my issue here. Also, by adding a full set of Delny, full set of Roaming Throne, the average cost of the deck, casting cost, also goes higher. You know, I think that's the issue. Again, I don't think it's bad. I think it will still do what it's going to do the majority of the time, and it's still going to be able to pop off and do its thing. I don't know if that, like, with the way you have it built, the only suggestions I would have is an additional Essence Channeler, an additional Deep Cavern Bat, probably going one less Roaming Throne, one less Delny. Those are the only real changes I would make for this type of strategy, right? If this is the game plan, that's probably the best you can do. Virtue of Persistence with the Darkstar Augurs, with the Delnies, feels a little bit scary. Like, I don't know if I'd be doing that. I just play some other cheap hard removal in that spot. Just go for the throats or something. Actually, not even go for the throat. I would play Bitter Triumph, right? Because you'll probably have the life to spend. You can get rid of Planeswalkers. And if you just need to lose life for the turn, you can lose 3 life, right? I would do that. But otherwise, yeah, this is probably the best I would do with this, changes-wise. Because for this strategy, I think you still need to be maximizing your life gain. Still play your best cards available, which are Channeler, Deep Cavern Bat, Case, right? Like, you want to max those for sure. But this is probably where I would settle on something like this. There's not a lot of wiggle room. I mean, this is largely just a Bats deck swapping out a couple of your better cards for Delny and Roaming Throne, right? To just attack it from a different direction. Mama Boo says, just saw you popped up and want to say hi. Well, hello to you too. All right. Yeah, sorry, Outreach. But yeah, definitely. We do these a couple of times throughout the season. All right. So, Catastrophe. I think that's where I would end up on this one. Not a lot of changes to make, like I said. We're only really adding 1 rare there, adding an uncommon, and then just taking out 2 mythics. No, a mythic and a rare. So, we actually made the deck a little bit cheaper overall. But yeah, that's probably all I'd be looking at there. All right. So, next up is Captain Antagonist, and Lions is on deck. So let's go take a look at that. Let's see what you got. Captain Antagonist has What do we have? Let's export this. And we're looking at something. All right. I do not see why is red in the deck. All right. We'll find out here in a second. So we've got Waterlogged Hulk. Oh boy. What is this thing? Tap to mill a card. Then on the backside, it's a 4/4. Craft with an island. Can't be blocked as long as there are 8 or more permanents. You crew. Oh, okay. That's a thing. Dream Thief. Gnawing Vermin. Stalactite Stalker. Malcolm, Pickpocket Print. Oh my gosh, what are we doing? Enchant a vehicle or creature. You can mill 2. Enchant. Oh my gosh. Okay. Sellsword. Yeah, there's. Wow. Wow. And if you mill 2 cards and draw 2, at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 8 or more permanents in your graveyard, flip it. Whenever you cast a permanent or spell, using mana up to 100 target. Yeah, I don't. There's. Oh man, my problem. Like, generally, to me, this reach is just inefficient. Is probably the word I have for it. While we are putting a lot of stuff in our graveyard, like Stalactite Stalker's fine. I've played it in a few lists, but it tends to be pretty slow because you can only put 1 counter on it a turn, and it just doesn't grow quite fast enough. Like Vermin's okay. Dream Thief, I just don't even bother with in these types of lists. Like, it's cool, it's a flyer, but it just doesn't contribute anything, really. Like, getting a card later is alright, but there's just better ways to do that. I'm not interested in playing Waterlogged Hulk. I mean, milling 1 in our graveyard isn't really that good. There's other cards we can mill with that are just more efficient and give you more options. And this ultimately would, like, you'd have to take a turn off to turn it into a 4/4. This list also doesn't play any spell counters of any kind, which you probably want to play to protect things after you've spent a long time building up the board. There's no real removal in the list. I would definitely, like, Song of Putrefaction would come out, Waterlog Holt would come out. I would get rid of Everflowing Well. Like, I get it, what we're trying to do with this. But again, it's 3 mana to put 2 cards in the graveyard and draw 2, which is fine. But then we have to get to 8, and then we have to survive the turn to be able to flip it to the backside. And then we're hoping to get a copy, I guess, of, like, Souls of the Lost or something. Just doesn't feel great. Doesn't feel great. I feel like they're just, like, same thing with Malcolm. Like, it's fine. We could draw and discard, and that's okay. But I just feel like there's better things we could be doing. Callous Sellsword, I at least get, because the plan is to fling one of your big bodies. But, man, it feels very gimmicky. Like, it's great if we get a Souls of the Lost it's like a 10/10 or something, you know? But if we don't, man, this feels like a really... I'm still okay with leaving it. But there's going to be a lot of times this is going to feel like a very rough card. I also realize I cut a bunch of stuff from this list, and it's still at 56 cards. How many cards did we start with in this thing? Like, yeah, we had too many cards in this list, I think. Because I cut 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at least. So, like, yeah, there were definitely too many cards in here. You know what? Hold on a second. I feel like I had a list I was working on that had a card. Yeah, obviously, some stuff rotated, so I haven't come back to this yet. Oh, Bitter Triumph was a card because it lets you discard. That was one of the things I was thinking of, yeah. So Bitter Triumph for sure. Oh, Invasion of Amonkhet. This is also a better card, right? It's an uncommon, but instead of playing one of those other things that cost 3, you could just mill 3 with this, and then eventually be able to copy something in a graveyard or whatever, right? Harvester of Miseries, fine. I was playing this as just like another removal option. 3 steps ahead, obviously, because then you can also copy one of your things in addition to countering something. And I think that tightens up the list a lot. Yeah, and I was playing Deep Cavern Bats in mine. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff happening that it's just, I think we're being too cute with some stuff. I think if we just tighten up the list, uh, the invasion, I think works well in here. I just don't think we need red at all. Again, if you want to do it, I'm not going to tell you to take it out. Like, I just probably wouldn't do it because I just feel like there's better options of things. Oh, it's singular bat. That's why. And then Bitter Triumph. Because like I said, we need some actual removal here. Maybe just like 2 Cell Swords. So if you get them, then awesome, something fun happens. But yeah, maybe Everflowing. I can't get behind Everflowing. I'd rather just have a full set of Invasion of Amonkhet's. I mean, yeah, if you want to keep the Cell Sword, I mean, it's your deck. I'm not going to tell you to not play it. But I think the problem is, generally, I'm going to push for consistency. If you are looking to build stuff to play on the ladder, my first thing is how do we get this to more consistently do the thing you're trying to do, right? But I think something like this feels better. Maybe, how many even lands do we play in this? 24? I can't really cut any at that point. But yeah, I like Invasion of Amonkhet. It contributes to the plan. Likeness Looter. Souls are Lost, obviously. Deep Cavern Bat's just a good card. The thing you're giving up by playing Callous Sellsword is you just don't have room for any spell counters. Right? So if your opponent gets a removal spell when you go to fling something, because remember, this targets a creature you control, and then you sacrifice it. So if they can remove it, then you don't get anything, and you lose the Sellsword. Right? So sometimes you're going to want some number of counters to protect stuff. Again, I don't know if that means we cut the Malcolms, we cut down a Likeness Looter, maybe we cut one of the Invasion of Amonkhet's, like something like that. But this still has a fair amount of ways to fill your graveyard anyway, right? With the Vermin, the Picklock Prankster, the Somnophage, technically Likeness Looter because you can draw and discard, and then the Invasions of Amonkhet. Like, that all crunches the plan a little bit tighter, I think. And you still have 28 creatures, so you still have a lot of threats. Not counting some of these are literal dual threats, being able to do 2 things here between, like, you know, filling your graveyard and still being another card. I would like some other bits of hard removal. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that could be a big deal. So, like, maybe it's like something like this. And we go with... Go for the throat. I'm kind of just moving parts around to see what this feels like right now. But... yeah, I ultimately, like I said, I think I would want some number of counters. But if I'm not going to play counters, this is probably closer to where I would settle. And this just feels more consistent, right? You have more powerful cards this way. We trimmed it down to 60 from wherever it was at, like 70 plus cards or whatever. Joe Fultz, you'll be next up in the paid queue. But yeah, I think that's the issue here. It's just like building consistency as tight as you can. Now you actually have some removal in here that'll get rid of stuff. You still have a fair amount of flyers. You still get to keep some Cell Swords, so you could do the Cell Sword thing. Copy stuff with Likeness Looter. You can fill graveyards and get you more options now with the Invasion of Amonkhet. And possibly get to copy something out of the opponent's yard after attacking with your flyers. So, like, yeah, probably this. I think this is where I would be. This feels a little bit better. All right. That was Captain Antagonist. So we're going to go to Joe Fultz. And Lions, you will still be on deck. So you will be next up. Joe Fultz just got to go to the Discord. And then post the deck list for me to check out. And then we will get to you next. Oh, you're already in there. I keep forgetting. Some of y'all don't use the same name on everything. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what we got. let's load it up. But it does remind me, I need to do the self-mill deck at some point in a video. I'll probably get to that in the next couple weeks. Playing Turbo Mice, it says. All right. Let's see what we got. We've got Cacophony Scamp. Coming in hot. That's a card you don't see that often. Felonious Rage, Heartfire Hero, Monstrous Rage, Audacity. If I have a real issue, it's that I only think we have 12 creatures. Yeah, I think I'd want to be closer to 16 creatures here. Even if that's just like Monastery Swift Spear, Sure Shot, like any of those types of things. Heck, you could even play, what is that? Exile Cards Druid. This guy, like Questing Druid, like that's an option because gives you another spell, get you access to more cards. Like that's something else you can play too, and it still grows for every red spell that you're playing. Though you do have a fair amount of green spells, so maybe we couldn't go too crazy. Ozolith is all right. I mean, you're doubling counters on the Heartfire hero, but that's kind of it. I mean, you do have Thrill Seeker. Yeah, I might go like cut an Ozolith, cut a Coming in hot. Felonious Rage is fine because your creature dies, you get to replace it with the creature, which is kind of good. But we got to make room somewhere, right? Whoa, what did I cut there? Oh, I cut another Heartfire hero. Didn't want to do that. Let's cut a Rage. Keep the other Rage. And then go with Sure Shot. Oh. Wait, what? Slick Shot. I have the wrong thing. I was like, wait a minute. There we go, this. Maybe something like this. I might like this a little bit better. I think this is the way I would go. Still keep the small spells, but a little more consistency by having more bodies. Because what I've seen running into these decks, when you don't have a lot of threats, is sometimes literally like one cut down or one go for the throat, they just get stuck with a bunch of cards waiting for a creature, right? You kill one or two early things, and they just don't have anything to use all these cards on. So I would want at least 16 real threats. And then be able to put all this other stuff on them. And I think that's the way I would go with this. And it feels a lot better to me. But those are probably the only major changes I would make. I mean, there have been various versions of the what we're calling the Gruul Hyper Aggro already for a couple of seasons. And a bunch of them were playing the Druids and stuff already. So, you know, swapping out for Heartfire Hero, a few extra little things. But this is probably the way I would go with this. I think this is more correct. I just realized I could have been giving you all a better view there. Yeah, but that's probably what I would do. I think otherwise, I mean, another thing where all the cards are reasonable. You know, nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything here that's too crazy. It all kind of makes sense. Like, Ozolith's probably the weakest card because you don't have that many things putting counters. So I could see a world where you cut the Ozolith and just go back to playing a max set of, like, Coming in Hot and Felonious Rage. I think that's reasonable. But if you don't have anything else, you can just put 2 counters on something every turn, and that's fine. Yeah, Demonic Ruckus is actually a good card as well. Like, that's totally reasonable. So, like, there's options. But, yeah, overall, the construction of the deck I don't think is too bad. Even more so if you're trying to stay within a budget, because most of these are commons and uncommons. You know, so you could build this pretty cheaply, generally speaking, if somebody just wanted to put this together, which isn't bad. I'd be a little concerned about 4 Rockface Village. I just noticed that. Because you can only use these for creatures, and you don't even have that many creatures. So that worries me a little bit. I probably wouldn't play more than 2. Realistically. But that's probably the only change I would make as far as land goes, I think. Alright. So next up, we have Lions and Asa Wasaka, assuming we have nobody else that hops into the paid queue. And then that'll be the end of the list, unless there's other people who hop in the paid side. All right, so let me go back up and get Lion's list. All right, here we go. And let's see what we got. This is a green-white counters list, it looks like. So what are we working with here? We have Bond Warden, Pixie, Recruitment Officer, Ruin Bat. I already have questions about the Pixie. Ozolus, Streetwise Negotiator, Brawler. Yeah, Imperiosaur. Yeah. Okay, I have questions. First off, what are we struggling with this deck? It's always one of the things when I look at this before I start moving parts. What is the deck struggling with? And two, what are we hoping to do with this? Because this doesn't greatly feel like a case of the Gateway deck. This feels like it's trying to be a +1/+1 counters deck, but it didn't want to commit to the plan. If that makes sense. Right? Like, it feels like we're doing, like, we have Bond Warden and then, like, Ozolith and Negotiator and Brawler, but then, like, we don't have that many things putting counters on stuff. So, yeah, I think there's just better cards. Now, again, I don't know what our budget requirements are for this deck. But, yeah, Lions, are you still in the chat? Okay, there you are. It says, honestly, you're not struggling much. It's 9 and 5. Then what do you want me to do to it? Like, if you're already doing well with it, I'm not going to touch it. What am I supposed to do with this? If you're already doing well, I mean, I wouldn't play Ancient Imperiosaur, but that's just me. But yeah, like, what do you... If you're winning, then just leave it alone. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I think more people need to learn that. Like, we've done many of these streams where people have come in and said, oh, I have a deck that's doing 61% in all my games. I'm like, okay, cool. Then why'd you even want me to touch it? Right? Like, it's doing what you want it to do. That should be what you want, right? And I think too many times, and this is just life advice. This isn't even just Magic deck advice. I think people have a thing that's going well, but then they still want to mess with it too much, right? It's like, it's working. Why are you wanting to do that to yourself? I think that's not a great move, you know? I think you're better off just leaving it. Also, thanks for the new follow. Subscriber there, actually. Thank you. So yeah, I have thoughts of things I would do. However, if it's working for you, I do not want to touch it. For two reasons. My changes may not be particularly what you want this deck to do or the direction you want to put it in, right? The other is, you could be winning with this deck because it's perfectly built for your playstyle and the way you like to play Magic, and you understand when to gamble on turns with it and not, or whatever. And if we change those cards, you may not have that same level of intuitiveness or intuition, I should say, and expertise to play it the way you need to. So I don't know if I want to touch this. I would just leave it as is. And as long as you're winning with it, just keep doing your thing. This is why I asked, because I was like, it felt like there were very particular things you wanted in here, whatever, and this is exactly why I asked those types of questions. Because if I just start dismantling it and putting in a bunch of stuff that's cohesive, +1/+1 counters, or whatever the case is, it just may not be what you want it to do. And because I have a whole bunch of ideas. I have some counters lists of my own I'm working on that look very different. Doesn't mean that either version is particularly better than the other. It's just built with certain visions in mind. So yeah, I don't think I want to mess with this. Stormy says, I feel like A knot should be left with each deck. Or note be the type of help people are looking for. I don't mind having the conversation live. I'm okay with that. The only thing I might add is the frog that does a counter and a life. I only like that if I have a lot of ways to bounce it. If I don't, then I don't really want it. It's not that great. No, I don't think that you wasted time at all. I think this is a good conversation for people to have, right? I think the reality is, I think the inclination for a lot of people is, well, I'm winning, let's say 60%. Can I win 70%? Or I'm winning 70%. Can I win 80%? Right? And it's like, at some point, if you're already doing well, like once you start getting to 60% plus, Moose Thompson, yes, that is correct. Once you're at 60% plus, you're already kind of near the top of what a deck can be expected to do consistently over a long stretch. So I don't even know the math on that, but like, let's see. You said you won 9 out of 14? So yeah, you're at 64% of your last 14 games, right? Now, that doesn't mean you're going to stay at that, but even if the percentage drops to 55%, like you're still going to be doing great. So yeah, I wouldn't change much. I think this is totally worth leaving as is, and if you're crushing it, keep crushing it for sure. Even if certain people don't like certain cards, the reality is it's working for you. Hell, I've posted a lot of deck lists where half the comments are like, I would play this instead of this. I would do this instead of this. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. It was like 10-3. What do you want me to do? Right? Like, I'm not changing anything, right? And people take that the wrong way, like I'm being argumentative, but I'm like, I just went 10-3 with the deck, and you're asking me to make changes that are just going to be different cards, but not necessarily solve any problems, right? And again, it could be a personal thing. Maybe my lists work better for me and other people want to play other cards. That's why I always respond with saying, even though I don't want to make those changes, feel free to put the cards you enjoy playing with into the deck list, because you should be playing with more cards you want to play and have more fun more often than not. Like, fun should come first, and you should enjoy what you're playing. But yeah, I think you're doing well with this list. Don't let it be a discouragement to you. you were doing quite fine. That does put Asa Wasaka. Are you still in the chat? You would be the next one up if you were still here. I will go try to prep that deck list. In the meantime, at least I saw it in here earlier. There it is. All right, let's see what we got. And then unless there's any more in the paid queue, this will be the last one we cover. Okay, there you are. You are in chat. Fantastic. Okay. This list is rats. Now, I do have a rat deck I'm working on, so this will be interesting. I don't have a self-mill version particularly, but rats nonetheless. Okay, so we got Gnawing Vermin, Tiny Bones, Picklock Prankster. I don't think Tiny Bones has a home here. Like, because you're mostly just milling yourself. So I don't think we need Tiny Bones. I think that's my first thing. So yeah, Tiny Bones, you can go. Cruel Claw's Heist, Cruel Somnophage. I'd probably play more Somnophage. That's real. This list also appears to have no removal. Also concerning. So I would take out some of the stuff that's trying to be a little cute at first. I mean, the problem here is I'm already realizing we're going back to just being another type of self-mill deck. Right? All the changes I'm wanting to make right now are probably ending up removing rat. Like, there's not even all that many rats in here, right? It's a Trata, Preacher. Like, we're not even really playing rats, right? We have Vermin, Marshstalker, Mind Whisker, but I mean, I don't know how much I like the Mind Whisker. And that's kind of it, right? Yeah, I would say if this is the case, let's just rewind and build the other self-mill deck we were just talking about. I don't know if because this really isn't a rat stack, right? Like we're playing Vermin, and the Marshstalker is reasonable, right? Because if it's in your graveyard, you can get it back into play. But like, we're talking 10 rats, and we're not even playing like the 2 legendary rats that could be played, like the 1/3 that, yeah, there's just, yeah, I would say I'm still working on a rats list. So, oh yeah, I forgot when I put in rat, it brings up pirates too. But like, this thing is still reasonable since it has vigilance and is hard to block. It can shrink some things, right? Like that's an option. Yeah, I would just, yeah, I think I would just go back and rewind to literally like 30 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago when we were talking about the other self-mill deck. I don't think this really even needs to care about rats. I mean, you know, feel free to keep playing Vermin and the Marshstalker because, you know, those are fine. They do their thing. Mill your graveyard, you can get it back. But, well, even then, you have to attack with the rat to get this back. And you're not going to want to attack with the Vermin that often. Yeah, unless you're playing a lot of rats, this doesn't even make sense to play, really. Yeah, this doesn't feel like a rat. This, honestly, this is just a worse version of the other self-mill deck we were just talking about. Right? I mean, I just, like, this is an inefficient removal card. I would just play, again, something like Bitter Triumph, because then you could just discard and fill your graveyard. Obviously, you could just max out Souls of the Lost. Preacher is a good card, obviously. Like, I'd rather just have 2 more Preachers than have Mind Whisker. Like, Mind Whisker making everything smaller is like, yeah, it's alright, but I can get a 2/4 that I can just block everything with, or your opponent doesn't want to attack because you have a Death Toucher, right? And this gives you other value. So yeah, I would just, this would need an overhaul. I think if we want it to be rats, we're going to have to go focus in on rats. If we want it to be self-mill, let's focus in on self-mill. But we have stuff in here, like we're saying, like Preacher, like Atrata. Well, Forgotten kind of fits what we're trying to do. It's not bad. Shoreline Looter's in here, but it's a pretty bad 1/1 until you have Threshold. Like, not often are you going to want to play this card. But yeah, I think that's my assessment. I'd be wanting to swap things pretty heavily. There'd be a lot of changes I would want to make. Season of Loss. I mean, I'm not even sure what we're doing with that in this deck. I mean, sure. I mean, it's not like we're getting stuff back out of our graveyard, except for maybe the Marshstalker, if we have more rats. Yeah, yeah. I think there's just more. I think there's just more things we could be doing. And and again, I don't think the majority of these cards are bad, because like I said, I like Preacher. You know, we were just talking about Invasion of Amonkhet. I think Season of Loss is a decent card. I just don't know if this is the build for those particular cards, is the issue. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that. I think we went over self-mill already a bunch of card choices. We can rewind the video or whatever if somebody wants to see it. I don't think we need to address that again. All right. What are we looking at here? Just double checking, making sure queues are clean. Also, Winner the Killed. Thank you for subscribing with Prime. I just saw that. They could even use the uncommon rat that self-mills and gives opponent -X a creature. Yeah, that's true too. There's other options if you want to go heavy on rats. Like I said, I'm working on some. We're not quite there, but there's at least ideas and concepts that I'm trying to hammer out. I think rats could be playable, but I think they need to be really focused to be able to do what they're trying to do. But all right, that clears the queue. And we got about 2 hours of streaming in. So that's real good. We covered a lot of decks. We went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We covered 12 people, 12 decks. That's actually pretty. You did donate the bits? Oh no. Did I miss it? I feel bad now. I will trust that you did because I'm. Oh no, it is. It's up there. I just didn't get my notification. But yes, it is there. All right. So Moose Thompson. I think I saw where you left something earlier. So I will just go snag that was in there. Glad you said something, because I did, for some reason my notifications did not go off. All right, let's go do that. Yeah, I see it in there. All right, we will cover this. This will be deck 13 that we covered today. John Mill. All right, let's see what we got going on. Oh, you are welcome, Vector. All right, so John Mill. All right, so we got Annihilating Glare. So you can sacrifice an artifact or creature. Greedy Freebooter. Mill our own stuff with that. Haywire Mite can go to the graveyard. Teething Wormlet. Tarian's Journal. Scoundrel, Making Treasure. Plunder. All right, I see where we're going with this. Corvold and the normal. So we make a treasure and a treasure. And then exile 3 from theirs, and we can play those. Ashiok. Is this really a mill deck? Because, like, we're only kind of milling with Realmbreaker, right? And I'm questioning if we even need Realmbreaker because we're not really doing much with the mana. Nor are we getting to 10 to try to get Praetors into play. I'd rather this just be some type of removal card or like more Wormlets. Or maybe Sentinel of the Lost City. Something like that. I mean, yeah, I mean, we can mill when we sacrifice, but like, are we winning? Like, I guess here's the thing. When we say mill deck, my thought is, are we winning by milling the opponent? Right? And more often than not, I don't think this is winning by milling the opponent. I think that's my issue. Like, can we mill some things of theirs? Sure. But what's our benefit of milling their stuff? Right? I mean, we're just not... I mean, really, we're almost offsetting the milling because if you were hurt some of their resources, you're also giving them treasure to help them get around missing some of those land drops or whatever, potentially, that you're stealing with the Realmbreaker, you know? The Legion Extruder lets me rotate out through... Oh, no, I like the Legion Extruder. I was about to say probably play 4 of them, to be honest, and just give the deck more removal early. Like, I like that part of the deck. Like, that I don't have a problem with. This, for 4 mana, I don't feel like I'm getting that much out of it. I would rather this just be the, what is it, the Decadent Dragon? And then I can just get 2 cards from them just because, for 3 mana, I don't have to wait till the other thing. And then on 4 mana, instead of just playing this, I can just have a 4/4 that also makes treasure. Right? I'd rather just have this. I mean, I get that it's here for treasure, but it's 4 mana. Like, we got to be doing more with 4 mana other than just making a treasure. Like, that's just not enough. Like, it's really just not. Like, at 4 mana, we got to be playing more threats. Like, playing 4 mana to make a treasure, what's the best thing we're hoping to have? I guess that's the thing, right? If we play this on turn 4, we use our 4 mana, we make the treasure. What's the best thing that happens when we make that treasure on turn 4? We might pump a Wormlet if it survived. We might be able to sacrifice a thing and draw a card. Right? Like, that's the best thing that happens there. Because that's all 4 mana, right? We can't do anything else. Yeah, exactly. Like mill two, like that's not that exciting. You know what I mean? Like I get what we're trying to do with this, but yeah, this isn't a mill deck. This is like this is an artifact based aggro deck that happens to mill a little bit. That's what this is, right? I can't see a world where we're realistically killing the opponent with mill. I would focus on making this more artifact beneficial more than anything else. Had it worked consistently about 40% of the time to mill out because of pitiless carnage. Sacrifice any number of permanents you control, then draw that many cards. I mean, I guess that's fair if that's your 2-card combo, but if that's the case, then why don't we max the pitiless carnage and get rid of the Corvold and the noble or whatever, right? Like, I wouldn't even really want Ashiok for the most part. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, there's, like, I wouldn't want Ashiok, I wouldn't want this. Like, if you're saying that's the combo, honestly, I don't even like Invasion, like, the Realm Breaker here. I get it, like, pay 3, pay 2, tap, but, like, we don't need to be wasting time with that. Like, let's give ourselves more options. Let's maximize the combo pieces. Oh, look, and we're back to 60 cards already. Like, that's honestly, I don't know. I kind of like Decadent Dragon in here too. I mean, if you're already milling them, like this kind of still does the mill thing in a way. It's like something like this. I mean, while I'll admit I do love me some Hydra, but yeah, I don't know. I was thinking Season of Loss. Season of Loss, you need to sacrifice creatures, though, right? That's not really what this deck wants to do. If it was sacrifice permanents, then sure. But I don't think that's what you want with this. I mean, you could get tricky, too, with this. I mean, it's a little crazy, but if you're just needing to get rid of artifacts... right? Sacrifice some permanents. I mean, why not? And it doubles up on the wormlet. Like, I mean, it's something. I mean, it's an idea. I'm not sure if that's the best plan or not, but it's something. Let's see. Freebooter can make an artifact. This, if something dies, you make a food. Yeah, maybe if we go like, let's max out. Because right now, here's the thing. If you're not playing Yigra, then I would almost consider finding a way to make this black-red. Because otherwise, we only really have green for Wormlet and Haywire Might, and that's barely worth it. You know what I mean? So, like, I might find room for some other stuff here. Like, Scoundrel makes an artifact. Haywire Might's an artifact. Freebooter can make an artifact. We have Tarian's Journal. Extruder's an artifact. Decadent Dragon can make artifacts later down the road. So what if we did something like this? And then you still have at least a reasonable number of things that you can attack with as well, right? Hopefully grow the Wormlet. You now have a dragon. You now have Igra. Like, these give you some other options. And you still get all the trickery with, like, Legion Extruders and stuff like that after Sweepers. I think this might be a little better. Still gives you 20 creatures. Don't have a lot of removal. I mean, we do have the Extruders and we do have Annihilator's Glares. So that's something. And still Haywire Might can get rid of artifacts and enchantments. So there's something going on. Still have 3 Pitiless Carnage, so you have your combo you can draw into. The curve of the deck isn't too crazy. It's still very cheap. So, like, yeah, maybe. This is something, right? Like, I could maybe play this on channel, because, like, at least it's something different to do with Igra other than just... I mean, I say that. It's still kind of a combo with Igra, but it's something a touch different that could be worth trying. You know, I'd be curious. But yeah, let us know in the Discord if this works out for you, because I'd be really interested. This is something I might give a try to. It's in the right space. I'd at least think about it, you know? It's kind of cool, though. I mean, it's a weird way to try to win if you're trying to mill somebody with Pitiless Carnage and the talent, but, you know, why not? It's as good as anything. But all right. Maybe Jasper as Scoundrel plan. Yeah, I think if you went just straight black-red, I would play Jasper and some other number of outlaws. I think that could be real. If you're just doing the mill plan already, anyway. But yeah, all right. Earlier, Dirk Ridley said, thanks for this format. I'm not prepared to send you a deck, but I could really use the help. Yeah, okay, so I know we're getting toward the end of the stream here, but I do have other options, right? If you just want to join the Discord, you can hop in there. Like, the community is always working on decks, helping each other with stuff, and that's an option. If you want to get help from me personally, if you're on YouTube, you just click my YouTube memberships or where it says join under a video. My level 3 is like $5, and that gets you access to just send me stuff directly. Like, it just goes straight to a forum. I send you an email breaking down the deck. We could talk about it back and forth, and you can get personal help that way too. So you don't have to do it on a stream. So if you just come up with the deck later and you want to get help immediately from me, I say immediately. It'd probably be within 24 or 48 hours, depending on what's going on. Like, I can just respond that way directly. Or you can have the community help you out in the Discord, and that's another free option that's available to you. So even when the stream's over, you can always come and get help and have that happen. Like, that's a totally reasonable thing. But yeah, other things I want to pitch. I will be going to MagicCon Vegas, so if you're going to be there in October, you can come hang out. We can maybe go grab a drink or something. Or just, I don't know, maybe play a game of Magic. It depends on how busy I am. But yeah, if you want to meet me, we will be there. That's still a couple months away. What else do we got going on? I'm working on some projects, maybe with some other creators, so I can talk about those when those are a thing. Also, yeah, if you want to support, I do have a bunch of merch. It's linked on my YouTube videos at the bottom of every video. There's the merch shelf. There's a link to my fourth wall page. Lots of cool stuff, like I've been drinking out of it today. One of my mugs. It's actually really nice. But yeah, lots of options there for different things. Stickers, I think. I don't know if we have keychains on there yet. I probably should do that. But like t-shirts, hats, mugs, other stuff, if you want to check that out. So lots of options if you want to support me and get something cool for yourself. That's the other thing. Yeah, I think that's going to do it though, y'all. I think we covered everything. We got 13 decks in today, so that was a pretty good stream. And most of them were some pretty cool ideas. There was a couple that are like kind of known ideas that we didn't have to do much to, but I would say at least 9 or 10 of them were at least trying to do something a little bit different. And that's always cool. That's what these streams are really for, right? To help people who are trying something different that there aren't a lot of examples to follow or whatever. And, you know, maybe you can get featured on the channel. Like the John Mill list we saw. Well, we'll call it the John Artifact combo list that we saw. I guess technically it can still be a mill list, right? Because Ego could still give you a bunch of treasure that you could sacrifice. So maybe that's a thing. But yeah, you know, that type of deck is different enough that we could feature it on video and have some fun with it too. So that's another thing. That's the other thing too. If you're a level 3 member on YouTube, those decks that I get through there have a higher percentage chance of being featured on my YouTube channel. I don't promise, because some of them we might just still need to work on a lot, or I might already be working on a deck like that or whatever. But when something cool or different comes through and I find it interesting and I want to refine it, like we have featured viewer and fan decks that way as well. So you kind of get a chance to get your time to shine, you know, if you want to do that. But I think the other thing too, y'all, is memberships on YouTube in general. I do occasionally send out different polls to kind of help guide what'll be on the channel next or what people are looking for. So if you want to contribute, if you're a member on YouTube, that's a way to have your say in that stuff. I'm also working on a video right now. I think that's just going to be like, hey, here's kind of where the Bloomburrow metagame is. That's going to go to level 2 and 3 members as well. So you get some extra content by being a member on YouTube. So I just want to put that out there for those of you that are curious. But yeah, otherwise, this is kind of cool when we get to do these impromptu streams. You know, I kind of just find time in my schedule and say, hey, let's do it and see what we could learn. Because I end up taking things away from these videos as well, right? Because sometimes somebody has an idea that I go like, you know, there might be something to this. We might not be there yet. It might take 3 weeks, you know, to figure it out. But it's cool that those seeds are planted and, you know, maybe we turn those into something. But I will say this for standard right now. There are a lot of decks you can play. Like if you're just playing on the ladder, There's a pile of things. People that tell you, this deck's no good and you can't do that. Like, the reality is, I said it before, if we're playing in tournaments, let's say I make 100 decks during a season. I might only realistically consider about 20 of them if I were to play in a tournament, best of 3, playing over a long day, targeting the metagame. But on the ladder, I'll probably play like 85 of those decks again, right? Because it's just a different environment. So that's what I always tell people. On the ladder, it's just find something that's if it's 51% or better, you will be able to rank with it, right? At that point, it's just a matter of time. Find something that you enjoy. That's the biggest thing. Like, you want a particular strategy. And then something you can play well, right? I see too many people go, oh, I got to copy this. It's a tier 1 deck and whatever. And then they don't get that many wins with it because it's not a style that they're comfortable with. They don't enjoy the deck. They're not engaged. And then they're just struggling. And when they're barely winning, they're not happy, right? So, and I see those people all the time. They're always chasing the next deck and the next deck and the next deck. And the reality is, if you have a deck, like we talked about earlier, if you're already doing good, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, right? If it's already doing decent for you, then learn all the plays with the deck. Get 50 games in before you really think about swapping decks. Make sure you've played against all the different matchups. You've learned how to overcome whatever problem the other decks are presenting. You've maybe swapped out a few things to match the metagame a little bit better. Then move on to another deck, right? Take away everything you can, get everything you can out of that deck before just switching it up. Because otherwise, you're going to be spending a lot of resources and constantly, to use the term, chasing the dragon, right? You're just always going to be trying to get the next thing and get that next high or whatever, when in reality, you might have a deck that's already doing decent. So just learn it better, right? Y'all watch me play games all the time where I make mistakes, right? I'm playing a different deck virtually every day, with some of them with cards that's the one time I'm ever going to play them all season, right? You don't always just pick up cards or a deck and magically play it perfectly. The reality is, and people are going to hate hearing this, but most gamers are way worse than they think they are. And I'm not talking about Magic. I don't care if you play League of Legends. I don't care if you play Call of Duty, Madden, whatever, right? Most gamers are worse than they think they are. And then they'll turn around and they want to blame it, oh, well, the shuffler sucks, or I got bad luck, or my opponent top decked, or whatever. Like, some percentage of the time that's going to be correct. But if you're not winning a lot, like, this is where it's hard being a creator, right? Because I had this happen sometime in the last week where somebody went, I just put this deck into Arena and I went, whatever, like 0-12, I think they said, or something. The next 2 comments were for real, like, oh man, I just got to gold, or I got to platinum for the first time. Thanks. Or like, oh man, this deck's awesome. I'm 6-1 or whatever it was, right? So what is my takeaway when I see those, right? Because the truth is, it could be all, because that's all of those are without context, right? The first person could be playing a deck that they thought it was just going to win a bunch of games for them, but they're not good playing that type of deck. Either group could have got the right matchups or the wrong matchups, right? Individually, they might have more skill or less skill. And that's why I always tell people, when you watch a video, whether it's from me or CGB or Ash Lizzle or Swayze or Jville or whoever you're watching, it's not about if the deck wins or loses. It's about how the deck wins or loses, right? Because you might get all different matchups. You might be watching, and this is why I tell people, watch the whole videos if you're interested in a deck. Don't just jump to copying the deck list. Because throughout the video, you might have made different decisions than the pilot made, right? That could change the outcomes of the games. Where they got a loss, you might get a win. Or where they got a win, you might have got a loss, and maybe you learned something. But people are so quick to just look at a deck list, watch one game, and they go, oh, that's it, I'm playing this thing. Or they'll just jump to the end and be like, oh, you won 60%? Yeah, I'm definitely playing this deck. And they don't know anything about it. Like, they assume they can figure it all out because gamers think they're better than they are. I mean, I see it all the time. Hell, the popular story I like to tell people is, I used to think I was a badass at Mario Kart. And then when the Wii came out, and I'm like, oh, I get to play Mario Kart online with people? Hell yeah. Y'all, I am not kidding. It took me almost 30 races before I placed, not got first, till I got third. And I literally had to sit with myself like, damn, like, I might not be crap at Mario Kart, right? Like the reality is, it's like, I thought I was good. You know, I could beat my friends. And, you know, I beat the computer on hard or whatever. So I'm like, oh, of course I'm good at Mario Kart. No, I was still steps below everybody else, right? Back when I used to play Madden all the time. At one point, I cracked the top 100 players online. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Like, now granted, I was like 70 something, like 78 or whatever. So I barely cracked the 100. But I got paired with somebody in the top 20. I got dusted. I think I lost like 35-7. And then I literally had the reality of, man, the people at the top are still way better than I am. Right? But people don't want to admit that. The reality is, most of us will never be the pinnacle of player at anything we do, because the people that are good at it either are, one, naturally inclined to be good at that thing, or two, that is their hobby and their life and they put their time and effort into it to be good at it. And that's totally okay too. I tell people, like, I've been lucky enough to play in nationals and play on the pro tour a couple of times or whatever. But to get each of those qualifications, I spent months grinding and deck building and play testing and whatever, and that's kind of all I did in the afternoons or evenings with my friends. I'm not looking to do that now. So I just have fun and make quirky decks and whatever. And like, I don't care if I'm making mistakes. I don't care if a viewer thinks I'm trash. Like, I'm not trying. I tell people all the time, the reason you don't see me overly talk about the metagame or talk about win percentages or whatever, because that's not the type of content I want to make. I want to make fun decks. I want to encourage people to play with fun stuff. Like, don't worry about it too much. Just play something fun and go rank up on the ladder, right? That's what I'm doing. And some people just, that's not going to be their jam, and that's okay. Frexian Hannah says, I know I'm terrible. Hey, it's all right. We all suck at different things. Moose Thompson says, dude, Mario Kart pros are nuts. So much min-maxing. Oh, yeah, I had no idea at the time. Like, I found that out the hard way. Oh, Smash Bros? I'm terrible. I'm terrible at Smash Brothers. Drake says, true. I'm just playing for the deck building and the fun, as most people should be. And if you happen to win in the course of that happening, great. That's all the better. But if winning becomes your first focus, I usually feel like those are the people that burn out the fastest. I haven't seen a bird deck for standard. Probably because there's not a good one right now. But I think that's a real thing, right? I think when people are focusing too much on winning, everything becomes stressful, right? Every loss feels so heavy. Like, I played a deck, and y'all won't even see the video for a couple of days, but while practicing and trying to come up with the right version, I think I lost the first, I think it was 7 games, something like that. But I knew the deck was close, right? So I just went in, had to keep tweaking it, messing with it, whatever. But if I was worried about my wins and like crushing my rank or whatever, I'd have been miserable losing 7 games in a row. You know what I mean? But I don't tie any worth to that or whatever. Like, that doesn't affect the outcome of my content or whatever. I tell y'all all the time, like, I build so many bad decks that y'all will never see, that I go play for 2 or 3 hours and can't make work, and those never become a video. Y'all see like the better version or the final version of whatever I've been working on or whatever that gets to become a video. So it's not even like, as creators, everything we make automatically slaps, right? We just do it for a living so we can iterate a little bit more and show you the better versions. How do I feel about control in this meta? It's fine. It's same as always. I mean, if you play control, play control. You're playing a lot of the same cards you played before. But yeah, just, you know, philosophical lessons about gamers and attitudes and whatever. I think a lot of people approach their gaming the wrong way. And unfortunately, like many things in life, most people aren't honest with themselves. Drake says, I tried a Golgari counters with Vadmir and Ozolith, but now, because of Innkeeper's talent, I don't know. I think the problem is that Vadmir is like the only good black card to put counters on. So usually your counters decks are going to end up being green-white or green-red in most cases. You're just not getting, I mean, unless you just want to have the safety net of like removal from black, which is totally reasonable. And then you're just playing all the green cards that put +1/+1 counters. And, you know, that's a doable thing. Nothing wrong with it. But I think that's kind of what you have to understand. It's like you're playing Vadmir, a bunch of green cards, and then black removal. Right? That's kind of the deck. Whereas I think when you play other colors with counters, you're playing multiple things that kind of contribute to the game plan more than anything else. Oh, no. I would not be playing Ayara. I think Ayara is not great for that plan. for the cost. Urborg Scavengers is reasonable. There's an argument that could be made for that. But you would also need to play enough cards that had other abilities. And a lot of the things that have +1/+1 relevant stuff don't necessarily have abilities, right? So I'm not even sure. I mean, the Oathsworn is fine. I don't know if it's better. Like, I think my issue is at that point, am I not just trying to do mono black aggro-y things if I'm going that route? Do I even need the green at all? You know what I mean? Like, the green is adding a counter or two here and there, but I don't know if that's really the plan. Yeah, I could see a world where it could work. I just think for consistency's sake, I might just lean on just being more heavy mono black at that point. I don't know if green is bringing enough. I could be totally wrong. I mean, I'll probably try that somewhere down the road. But Joe Folt says, I'm looking for a deck to make use of Igra. Any suggestions? We literally just looked at somebody's deck today. I mean, it's either that or you just do the combo stuff with Igra, right? Where you're playing Bartolome, you're playing the other guy, like you sack a food, make a rat, whatever, and Camille, where you can like sack a treasure, make a squirrel. The squirrel becomes a treasure, you sack this treasure, blah, blah, blah. Just make a pile of dudes. That's probably like your best bet. Beyond that, I don't know what else you do with Igra. Like, if you need to have something that cares about the treasure. That's the thing. Like, and it's kind of why when Igra came out and everybody's like, oh, but why are you not higher on this card? Because in a way it doesn't do anything. Right? Now, don't be wrong. It's great against control when they don't have creatures and they have no way to kill it. Awesome. But in a bunch of other matchups, it's like, all right, they'll sack their 1/1 so they can target Igra and kill it. You know what I mean? Just like, eh. Or they chump block because it's a big 6/6. Like, it becomes like a 12/12, 18/18, but like it's not punching through. Doesn't have menace, doesn't have trample. So it's just kind of like, nah, it's fine. You know what I mean? But if you have something to do with all those treasures, that's what the focus is, really. Like, it's almost like Igra is an enchantment that can sometimes be killed by creature removal. Right? In a weird way. More than being an actual creature. Storm Splitter and Red Convoke is the thing I've never thought about. Storm Splitter can work. You just play a bunch of stuff during your opponent's end step and then try to combo off on your turn and attack with like 18 dudes. It's kind of it. It's not really fancy. Just kind of is what it is. Like, you don't get too tricky. Just try to play like 3 spells during your opponent's end step. Play another 2 or 3 on your turn. Attack for lethal. That's your game plan. See if you can protect the splitter for at least a turn, right? Well, there's some various combo-y things you can do, but unfortunately, splitter mostly fits into that type of deck. It doesn't really go into a bunch of other stuff. But all right. I think that's going to do it for me, folks. This was a good chat, good talk, good stream. And I want to say we'll be trying to do streams in general more often. I don't know if we'll do these types of streams, but we'll do these a couple of times a season because people like to get deck help or whatever. But they're not going to be super plentiful because they do eat up a lot of time. But if y'all are interested, like I said, you can always hop in the Discord. You can come by there, get deck help. You can join the memberships on YouTube, partly for a lot of reasons. You can contribute to the channel, get to see what you want to see. You get extra videos. You can get a personalized deck help as well. That's all on there if you want to do that. And yeah, again, merch, support your boy. I got lots of things. I was just wearing my hat. Actually, I have PowrDragn hats. I forgot about that. Those are on there too. And they're all solid quality. Everybody's liked the stuff they've ordered so far, so that's good. And I'm working on another one very, very soon. That'll be coming out, I'm hoping, in the next, 2 weeks. My artist should be done with it very soon. So I'm hoping I get to... Oh, yeah! Those of you that watch my streams, we shared it on a stream like a month ago. The design. We've been refining it. So those of you that know. But it's really cool, and it's coming out soon. Cool. All right, y'all. That's it. I'm going to shut this down. I got to go grab a drink and get to work on another video so y'all have more stuff to watch. But yeah, I appreciate y'all like always. I really do. Thanks for the new subscribers, the new followers, those of you that came over with the raid. Be sure to follow on Twitch. You can catch me next time. Or follow me over on YouTube. I literally put up content every single day on YouTube. We are now at 4.5 years that I have put stuff up. Average, I think YouTube tells me it's almost 1.5 videos per day for 4.5 years. Y'all should come be part of it. That's a lot of content. But all right, wherever you guys or gals, you folks are watching, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, because there's some of y'all from all over the world. We had people from Australia and stuff earlier. So thank you. Remember, take care of yourselves and your family. Be awesome, but most importantly, be awesome to each other. And I mean it. Really. Don't be a jerk to each other.